Because it's on charity, isn't it?
Yep. Yep. So it is a good way to keep food out.
Well, maybe it's the only way now.
Are we
Once I would have-
Stamps already exist. They already,
well, they,
EBC already do
we,
food grants.
we didn't have them once at all.
Yeah.
And then it became charity.
Now them.
I think it's a government. I'm not sure.
No, we want to be able to hear that.
Testing.
Oh yeah, that's
What we
yeah,
need.
Debbie.
Oh, okay, you do what you want to do.
But I left and came back in, Andre, so I don't know if that had any effect.
Well, it's works because we can hear you now.
Yep.
What about Carl? Can
We're
you hear
back on live stream. Not yet. Yes,
Yes, we've got live stream.
we are live stream. Okay, if we can just please stand up for the karakia.
Yes.
Pakataka te ho ki te uru, pakataka te ho ki te tonga, kia mā hina hina ki uta, kia mātaratara ki koe, e hia ana te atura, e tiro, te uka, te honga, te hei maore ora.
Thank you, everyone. So, first item on the agenda, apologies. We don't have, any apologies received at the close of the agenda. I've already, introduced our members attending via audiovisual link. We have Debbie Mora, and she's apologies for an early departure. Same with Gamal. I think Gamal has already left. He was just waiting for his food.
No,
No,
I'm
he's
ready,
back.
I'm here.
All right, cool.
And Tyler is here.
And Tyler,
Hey.
Councillor Tyler Harrison Hunt is here. He's councillor for Riccarton. Just a reminder for our attendees on Zoom, please keep your camera on at all times. Now, item number 2, any declarations of interest? None? All right. And item number 3, confirmation of previous minutes. A move that the minutes of the Waipuna Halswell-Hornby-Riccarton Community Board meeting held on Thursday, 25th of July, 2024 be confirmed. Any mover, seconder? Moved by Andre, seconded by Mark. Thank you. Any discussion on that? No? All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Against? Carried. Right, now we move on to the public forum. We have Mr. Ian Begg, a local resident, will address the board regarding the pavement resurfacing on Lancewood Drive. Also, you can please come forward. Have a seat. And how many minutes?
5 minutes.
And you have 5 minutes to address the board. Thank
Try and
you.
get through it all.
Mr. B has a presentation.
Yeah. Presentation. I'm sharing the screen. Yeah.
Here it comes. Oh, sorry.
Right. Can start by introducing yourself.
Okay.
That's right.
No worries. So good afternoon, community board members and councillors. My name's Ian Begg, and I reside at 9 Lancewood Drive in Westlake. This is not something I really know much about. I was told to come here and speak to you after communication with the City Council broke down from the City Council's point of view. The matter I'd like to discuss is about work carried out when they, during the replacement of the footpaths at Lancewood Drive. This was in early to mid-June this year. During the reinstatement of the footpath, they paved over my garden, and I can have my PowerPoint and I can show what they've done.
That's like, not that's like, that's yours.
Not me.
Oh,
It's not.
It needs to go into the play
Presentation mode.
the slideshow. Usually bottom right hand corner.
Yeah, she's got it.
Cool. So that's my property. We're mainly looking in front of that little wee nib wall. There is a wee garden there. You can see something growing. And obviously on Lancewood Drive. Work. And what they've done is they've paved over it. Now, even though it's a small garden with summertime bulbs, it really changes the street frontage of my property. It's now quite harsh. Not only does it change the street appeal of my property, but I also question the reason this work in the first place. I can see no reason that anything had to change, since from what I can see from Google Street View, it's been like that since at least 2008, and I suspect it's been like that since the construction of the neighbourhood. Additionally, I have many concerns about the quality of the work that was performed. In trying to resolve this issue, my first communications with the CCC was a person called Devon on the 27th of June, where I logged a formal complaint. After a couple of weeks, I hadn't heard anything, so I called back. After several calls, I was advised that the complaint had been closed and there was no communication to me. The reason was given at this point was very vague. They did helpfully pass on the contact details of Claire Eccles, who is the agent in charge, which I duly proceeded to try and contact to clarify the matter. After weeks of unanswered phone calls and email, Claire did finally phone me back on the 25th of July, so a month later. I was informed that the complaint was closed, and it came across like there were many excuses as to why they paved over my garden. But without a transcript of that phone call, I cannot state word for word, but there were a few things that I can mention. In saying so, I did ask for a copy of the report so I can see why they did what they had done. But all I got was a typed email from Claire, which is here. It says, "Thank you for your time. This is to confirm that the service strip along the front of your property at 9 Lancewood Drive is council owned. The decision to seal it was made on during an on-site inspection due to its previous state of unmaintained weeds and scattered bark along the footpath. Please see below the photos in which the condition before sealing and the boundary lines." And then there you can see it says, "If you wish to discuss this matter further, please feel free to contact your local community board." This is their photo. And in this, I'll come back to that. And that's the boundary line which they've provided as well. So I have many concerns regarding the situation. Firstly, it was winter. The weather had been pretty poor at the time, and scattered bark, or what I'd call debris, as seen in their photos, is all over the footpath as well as my garden. If there were weeds, then that's to be somewhat expected during winter, and I shouldn't be discriminated against just because my garden wasn't up to their standards on that particular day. If it was pristine, but they have still paved over it. All of about 10 metres up the road. So this is pretty much two next door neighbours along, the first photo on the left. There's an unkept driveway with dirt, weeds on council land. You can see there is the boundary peg, as they've pointed out to my property. So there are many other sections around too. So across the road, this is across the road on the right hand side at number 2. There's another one with the boundary peg in the background. There's a couple more as well further down the street. So consistency with the reasons of unkept council land need to be upheld. If it's purely of fact of the council land, then there's a huge amount of private gardens on council land. If you have a look at where that footpath is, that circled bit is the boundary peg. And this is the next one along. And if we have a look at that, that is what that line draws. So the first photo is the red line across, and then the second one is where the blue goes to. So my land is really very, very small on this side of things. If it's due to the wooden board being rotten, then is that not part of fixing the footpaths? And if they can't reinstate that, then have they not employed the wrong people? Also, the quality of the work. People say they are right and everything, and it should have been paved over. They've only paved 4/5 of the way along. So my property obviously goes a whole lot further, and they've just stopped. I don't know why they haven't finished around that power box. And if they say it's too hard, then I stand by the wrong people were employed. They also look to have only paved over my stones rather than doing the correct work. I've only pulled up a little bit there, but there are stones because I don't want to destroy the whole thing, obviously. And then the last one is that they've actually left a nib wall sticking out into the footpath, which sort of goes against the whole reason why they're there fixing the footpath in the first place, which they say was to make it safer. So I do have a few options on what I'd like the outcome to be, which is ideally reinstatement of my garden as it was, and by the CCC to my standards.
Excuse me, do we need an extension for this?
Yes. Happy to.
Good.
I've only got a little bit.
Okay.
It's fine. Yeah, so ideally a reinstatement of my old garden in its original place to my standards by the CCC. Either a cash settlement so I can then turn my garden, or either reinstate the garden myself in its original place with the approval of the CCC, or so that I can change part of my front lawn into a new garden, in which case I'm probably do overhanging plants to make it a wee bit softer, or at a very minimum, an explanation on why they have done it, and for them to come along and finish paving across the front of my garden and take out that nib wall. And that's me. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Helen, I've got Helen. Anybody else?
So is the main problem that haven't surveyed, or they've actually got the wrong line?
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
That's the thing. I don't know.
You don't know.
So they say that it's council land. So if we go back to where the pigs are, they're saying that there is council land. So it's council land, it's unmaintained, they've paved over it at their discretion.
Right. So that should be easy enough to ascertain.
Yeah.
I've been through this ages ago on a property,
Yeah.
and they rang up and said, "Is this tree on yours or mine?" And they said it was on mine. I took it down, but there's some doubts about it. So I wonder if we could get the surveyor at council to look at this. I mean, it's a technical
So
issue.
this is what staff have provided. This is what, this is the line that staff say.
Yeah, but I think I'd like to understand where the survey line actually is.
It's it. So
That's it. We're not going to ask them to resurvey.
Or then have they?
I can, you can see the pig there. So if the pigs are in exactly where they should be, then that's fine. That is council
Yes.
land. But
So I think we need to get a land surveyor at council and engineer to explain.
Well, no, he's just saying it's a consistency.
Sorry? I mean,
it is-
if they've made a mistake, then they've made a mistake. I mean,
if it is council land, then why have they not taken all the council land back there?
yes.
So why
Sure.
has only my property been the one that's been paved
Yes.
over and no one else's?
Or have they wanted to change the footpath round your property, and in doing so, they've come across, they've got a process that isn't quite right in terms of land surveying.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, why are they?
Any more questions?
So that's a question I'd like the staff to answer, thank you.
we don't have staff.
No, I mean, the staff to, the report back, please.
Wait,
Yes.
okay, we'll go first to, with Tyler and then Andre and then Mark. Tyler, please.
Kia ora. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Beauty. Hey, cheers for that. I really appreciate that, for you coming in and giving your thoughts on it. I was just making some thoughts, and maybe option 3 sounds like the most feasible option. Would you be okay with them fixing, obviously, that patch that we're seeing in front of me right here and getting rid of that nib wall?
Yep. I mean, that there and an explanation of it would be really good. You know, like a copy of the report on why they have done what they've done.
Yeah, no, that sounds good, because I think in terms of precedent, if it's council land, maybe I do understand your argument too, completely understandable. But maybe it might be up to their discretion and what type of council land they want to utilise and what they don't want to utilise. The garden beds, that's what I'm expecting would come back from staff. But option 3 sounds like it's a feasible option, and it might be able to be addressed quite quickly.
Like heaven from here.
Okay,
Hey.
think we have, is that all, Tyler? You're all good, Tyler?
All good, thank you.
Great, thanks. Andre, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, thanks, Ian. What I can't understand here is why someone just didn't come have a knock on your door and talk to you about it beforehand.
Yeah, well.
Nothing in the letterbox. In the letterbox is just the generic resurface.
I understand there was a letter.
But that's just saying there's resurfacing work being done for all of Lansford Drive that wasn't specific to your property. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we knew that was going to happen.
So, I mean, if they came knocking your door, talk to you about it, you possibly could have come to an agreement, possibly anyway.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So asking for an explanation is obviously what we'd have to do first anyway. But can we also ask why they didn't go and speak with the property owner? To not do that just seems bizarre. If there's a reason, there's a reason. Obviously there is. But to not go and just have a word with the owner is just insanity. Because obviously they're going to wonder what on earth has gone on and come speak to someone about it. Yeah, so I think that would be quite good to seek an explanation.
All right.
It just doesn't make any sense to me.
That, and then we'll have Mark, and then we'll try and then Hank.
Yep.
So Ian, your actual preference of what you'd like on that piece, is it to reinstate the garden or have the ability for yourself to reinstate the garden?
Ideally, because you know, if it does just get paved over and left as is, like I say, it's quite a harsh. It's from the footpath straight into that concrete little wee nib wall, and then to my grass. Where before it was just that little bit softer, and when you looked at it, it looked like it sort of flowed. It was garden, then into the grass. You sort of lost that nib wall. Now it's just there in your face.
Yeah. So if we were to ask staff how you could be, you could work with the contractor to remove the asphalt and reinstate the garden. And you're happy to reinstate the garden yourself. It's purely the removing the asphalt really.
It really is. It's a matter of pulling it back, and you know, I'm pretty sure over the phone she said that the wee wall, you can see it there, the wee wooden wall there. And it separates the two. I'm sure she said that was rotten and it was too hard to reinstate, so they decided to pave over it. And it's like, well, that's not, you know, is that not part of fixing the footpath? So if that's the reasoning, that's just poor.
Of course, it depends where the survey line is, doesn't it?
We know where that is.
Yes.
You can see it appears.
Okay.
So could we refer that to staff to ask how that asphalt could be removed so that you can reinstate his garden?
Oh, so which options? Hank first, and then Sarah, and then we'll come up with something altogether. That's right. Hank?
Who put the nib in originally? Was it a council?
Yeah, it was there when I bought my house.
Okay, fair enough. So why doesn't it go back to the other one? That one here. From where the red arrow is, which is, I presume is just a survey peg. Where does it go up on your neighbouring property, and why wasn't the nib continued there?
I don't know.
Previous owner.
Yeah, I mean, the nib wall that you can see there on the left, it's just holding in my garden. On the other side of that fence is their garden. I've got stones. Different level.
From what I can see, why not just remove the nib and bring that bit into your place, like they appear to have done for the neighbour?
I don't really follow that, sorry.
No. If you follow that line, no matter where it goes, your next door neighbour should have a piece of similar type
asphalt
there.
Yeah. Which, and if you go to, you know, boundary lines.
Yeah. This is a bit I can't comprehend. I don't see why your property is different from the others.
That's what I don't get either, is why, you know, if we go back to bits of driveway, that one on the left is literally, sorry, I'll have to jump up to show you. Here's my house, that's it. So, you know, only 2 doors down, not even that, there's a piece of unpaved driveway. And I sort of go, why have I been done and no one else? That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, we're going to need to stick to this one though. And
we are.
Right. So, Sarah?
Yes, I'm just curious, is it the only driveway that's been affected by this?
As far as I can tell.
Okay.
I haven't knocked on everyone's door, but I did wander around obviously and take some photos. So I don't know what was in other people's places before or after, but it all sort of looks like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been
Right.
a street's been done, there's been a few changes, but I don't think I recall one quite like that.
Yeah, sure.
That's quite unusual. Walked through the other day, in fact.
Okay, so I understand. Who?
DB.
Debbie. Debbie,
Yes.
you have a question?
Oh, very quick question. You mentioned that alternatively you would consider a cash settlement. Council doesn't usually do that, but I am interested in what figure you might be looking at, because if it's a reasonable figure, it could be much better than us doing an investigation, etc., with our people.
$1,000 is all I was thinking, just for
Oh, that's pretty good.
Well, all it is just putting in some more wood to.
But you see, that's what I mean. If you're happy with that, that to me is much cheaper than doing a report, etc., etc. So is this something that our board would consider?
Need to find a cheap way to do something.
All right.
Or cost effective.
Okay, I think we'll just have to refer the issue to staff for advice, and we'll just move on from there. And think
I don't know what happens. from
it'll
here,
come
but
back,
you tell
and
me.
probably we'll get in touch with you.
Discussion going.
We'll need to hear from staff advisors.
All right.
Right, thank you so much.
All right. We'll see if we can have a discussion.
Okay. Right. Next up, we have Tim Field, a local resident, who will address the board regarding trees on Quarry View Reserve, Halswell. Come forward, please.
I'm not sure how this works, so I just did a quick wee printout on page. Can I just give it to you? One might be the easiest way to.
Well, we can pass them around if you want.
Okay.
Jenny, copy? Sorry. Can we have 2
They're
minutes?
not terrible. It's the ones, it's these the ones. Look flaky.
Thanks.
Yeah, they're on a bit of a lane there.
All right, yeah, you can start. Thank you.
Well, my name is Tim Field. I'm an architect. I've come here on behalf of Chris Sindos, who put together a wee petition with all the people along his street regarding these trees. It's in the Quarry View drainage reserve, and these are 2 subdivisions either side. One's the Quarry View, and then the new one is the Quarry Paddocks. In this reserve, there's on the south side of the reserve, there's about 50 meters of they are shelter belt trees. They're spaced about 2.5 meters apart. They're a popular variety. There's a stream going beside them. They're very fast growing, and they're now well over 30 meters high that, and they effectively within about 10 meters of about 12 or 13 houses. They have a very large effect on those houses. Our main concern is we just believe they're becoming more and more dangerous and unstable. They are on a lane. Some of them are up to 30 degrees sloping. They're saying they're well over 30 meters because they are planted so closely that they're affecting each other. So they're very long and spindly. I know there was some work done on these about a year ago from another person who lived in this area who had their concerns, and that time that they were deemed to be acceptable. Since then, I walk a dog regularly in this reserve. There's one tree's been removed because the roots had lifted up on one side and was about to fall over. At the moment, I believe there's 3, maybe 4 that are similar. They're actually leaning on the neighbouring trees, and they are. I believe then the roots lifting up that they're probably not far away from falling over. I just believe that they are dangerous. They have a huge impact on the houses in front of them, and I believe there's something to be done, whether it's topping them, thinning them, removing them, but they're not. I don't believe. As an architect, I appreciate that tree canopies are very important, and protecting them. But these ones here, they're non-native, fast-growing popular that I believe will be a problem in the future. And just probably a few asides is that as an architect, I've learned the importance of passive surveillance and things like that. These trees have got another row of trees behind, provide a fairly dense block, so the houses from Spalding do not have a kind of provide passive surveillance and view out into that park, which is used by quite a few people, and I know that's an important part there to improve the environment around, and also that in the Quarry Paddock subdivision, it's reserve, and at the moment there is an access way there which the subdivision has created, but there's a plank going across the stream. I know that there are plans in the park, but it's been 2 years now since that. Nothing has happened. That people have to walk over a plank from the subdivision to use that reserve, and so that was just basically what I'd like to say.
Thank you so much. I have questions from Andre and then Helen.
Thank you very much for coming in. Now, as I recall, when I came for a look, some of the contentious issues around removing trees are somewhat them to stay. As I recall, everyone on the street's happy to see them go. And there was just one concern about making sure at least they are replanted with something, which I imagine would be the case anyway.
Yes, they do have I mean, they are significantly large trees very close to houses. That's the fundamental thing. It does affect all those houses in spring, autumn, and in winter.
Yeah.
It basically blocks the whole sun from, and at the moment it's good when the leaves are away, it does help, but when the leaves are there, it does block the sun totally from those sites.
So all of ours had a gut sort of what you're saying. Nice one. Thank you.
All right, Helen?
Yes, it's council land.
Yes, it's council.
And have they been planted, say, 30 years ago or more recently?
Oh, no, I assume that, I mean, there are shelter belt trees for a rural
property long.
And and they've just grown and they've been left there.
Yes.
And now they've kind of been incorporated into a reserve and a suburb. I think they're out of portion, and
Good. All right, last question from Mark.
Yeah, so you'd be wanting us to refer this to our arboural staff and
yes. I believe it has to be monitored, and there should be a solution there. I mean, the other side is, the Quarry Park subdivision, there's 140 sites there, which are from the neighbourhood reserve contribution from each of those sites is about 2,700, which is there's $380,000 there. That subdivision is contributed to its neighbourhood park, and these trees are not being touched. There's barbed wire underneath there. There's gorse. It's just I think
to start.
Just before that, because I understand that a draft planting plan for Quarry View Reserve is currently being prepared that may include a proposal to remove these trees of concern and replacement planting. And the plan is likely to go out for consultation in October or November this year. So the arborist will be coming to the board to present this. So if we can just wait probably until that proposal comes through for consultation.
I appreciate that.
And petition's been noted attached to the minutes, and that may well help inform the draft plan that they go and consult on. So,
okay.
Thank
you.
Can I just ask, do you still want to refer that to staff for formal advice?
Yeah.
Formal advice.
Yeah, because that can help form a draft, right? Yeah.
Okay, right. Thank you.
And if staff will work on that plan, they've got it covered.
Yeah, it's sort of been a year or two.
And we've got the last one also for public forum. We've got Drusilla Patterson will address the board and provide an update on her Green Moon studio. Drusilla, come forward, please. Thank you.
Hilda.
You have 5 minutes.
Yep, that's fine. 5 minutes is what I need. I brought in some paperwork This is just a list of, I'm going to start a penguin board game group in the Arts Centre. Because I'm an event organizer and planning. These are things, this is 9 years of planning, okay? And then I want to organise the annual plan for a maze, a wooden maze in the square next to the library, and we're going to organise a penguin chess group there and develop it. But this will all go in front of the council. This is just to keep you informed. But why I'm here today is I've been doing the long-term plans and looking at emergency management, and my concern is Lancaster Park and Yaldhurst, because with me working in traffic management since 2010, I mean, I'm standing in Yaldhurst at 6 o'clock in the morning waiting to get picked up, and also standing on the other side when the river was shut, we couldn't get over the bridge. And also prior to 11th earthquake, Linwood used to be your civil defence area. And we've actually got now kids, we've got people that are moving and shifting. So I believe that Yaldhurst Community Centre and Lancaster Park will be prime places for civil defence. Now, coming back to me with what I'm doing is I collect dolls and royal dolls. We've actually lost a toy museum. It's been sold to Wanaka. The whole collection has gone. It was about $20 million worth of stuff went over to Wanaka. The city has lost it. So my long-term vision is a toy museum at the Arts Centre, but that involves fundraising for a $3 or $4 million building. Okay, I've got 30 Lord of the Rings dolls on my roof. I've got dolls, I've got a whole royal collection. So what I've come up with is February next year, we go to the RSA in Rangiora, and that's going to fund for the Model Railway Club, which has to raise $300,000 for a shed. And I'm also following Kaipoi. Later on, we'll have a play in the next couple of years at Kaipoi, and that will fund for the Kaipoi men shed, because I'm worried about my tradies. I'm actually was first female cabinet maker in New Zealand. I've got project management, and I've just come off construction sites, okay? And so the idea is the dolls will go to Rangiora RSA, then they will go over to Selwyn. The reason why I've chosen Selwyn Library is I would have liked Templeton, but you can't, there's no way you can leave the dolls there overnight. So I've come up with Selwyn Library, and the money for that will go towards the Yaldhurst. And then the following year, the dolls will go into the Christchurch Arts Centre in the gallery area, and the money will go to Lancaster Park. And then they will go again. So we'll go in a 3-year cycle, and then the chess set, and then I'll have my plays, and I've got other stuff on. So I've just come to keep you informed. And in the middle of that, part of Santa's Lost Key, which is part of all this as well, I'm building a model railway, but it's actually based on the architecture of Christchurch 207. Okay, and that will be the basics of the play, which is going into the Arts Centre about 226 or 228. And it's all based around the earthquake. And the idea is to let children, I want our city to be more child friendly. All right? Okay, so that's me.
Thank you. Keep them busy.
Thank you, Gisela. Okay, moving on, we've got a few deputations. Right. Okay, on the agenda, we had Mr. Lawrence Alpress on Arthur Street, proposed traffic and parking improvements. Mr. Alpress was not able to attend, but has asked that it be noted by the meeting that the issues raised in the submission from the Arthur Street residents that he represented have been mitigated by the latest plan. And the second one on deputation is Mr. Craig Wilson, who's also not able to attend. And we have Ms. Janelle Rin. Yes, please come forward. She'll address the board in relation to the Arthur Street proposed traffic and parking improvements report, which is item 8 of the agenda. Thank you.
Kia ora, and thanks for giving me the time to speak. I've never done this before, so bear with me. My name's Janelle. I am a parent of Middleton Grange School, and I also live in Arthur Street, where the proposed changes were suggested. I've got 3 girls aged 11, 9, and 6. And we made the decision 3 years ago to buy in the street rather than deal with the school traffic every day. The council notified us earlier this year of proposed changes. We currently live on the side where there is restricted parking between peak school drop-off and pickup hours. There are some signs on some traffic posts, and then the school side is left for parking for half of the street. Basically, there's different sections throughout the street. I don't have a beautiful PowerPoint. I do enough of that in my regular job. But basically, there were some proposals made. We had a lot of feedback from the school community. The council's initial suggestion was to remove all the no parking, no stopping signs in the street, and there was very big feedback from not only residents, Lawrence is a neighbour of mine, but also from school parents who are like, this is just going to make the situation a nightmare. Currently having parking available on one side works for primary school parents who actually need to go in to pick their children up, and not having restricted parking on the other side means that the traffic can still flow 2 ways. It's quite a narrow street. We're really pleased that the council has listened to our feedback and is not going to remove the signs, and we are in support of that as a school community and as a resident, and also that there's been some extension of yellow no stopping lines. As a parent, I readily agree that the issue is that there are school parents parking where they shouldn't be. There's about 1,400 students at the school, and many people travel from right the way across town. We've got families as far as West Melton and other places like that who are coming. We're quite happy with the suggestions that have been made, but there's just a couple of things I wanted to speak to. There's a suggestion that it be changed from 2:30 to 3:30. The problem is on a Wednesday that the school finishes at 2:20. We usually have staggered finish times. So the middle and high school from year 7 to 13 finish at 3:15 or 3:20, and the primary school finishes at 3:05. And there's a little bit of a sweet spot. There's a little bit of a traffic jam, and that's okay. On a Wednesday, that is the worst day in the street. It is absolute carnage because 1,500 children are leaving at the same time. If the signs are made to 2:30, well, we're going to end up with a problem because the school will finish at 2:20. So could some consideration from council or whoever else is available to just think carefully, very carefully about the timing. I don't think the residents would mind if it was perhaps brought to 2:15 to 3:30. It's the Wednesday is carnage. And perhaps the council was not aware of that early finish, or it just wasn't taken into consideration. My next request is that we need more signs. So it's tricky getting them at a height where people will actually see them, pay attention, not cut them down. But we need more signs. So we need signs on every single lamppost on that side of the street. We currently have them on like every second, and then we have every third, and some of them are facing one direction. So we actually need 2 signs per lamppost facing both directions so that no one's got the excuse of, oh, we didn't see the sign. That's a big thing. We're really grateful to the parking people who come out regularly every time we call. They're super polite. They're there in the rain. It's an ongoing issue. I just want to acknowledge the school is working really hard. They send regular reminders to parents saying, please be respectful of the restrictions. People just choose to listen. It's not a very good representation of our school community. My other request is to, as a resident, we desperately need parking lines. If you go through council records, you'll see there have been multiple complaints by residents about people, school parents, parking over residents' driveways. The school is really good at putting comms out, but the school does not have the resources to go around in a high-vis or the jurisdiction to say, you need to move your car. And I see in Oaklands, they have around the school area, put some lovely parking lines to make it really clear. And that helps if you're a busy parent in the rain. Yes, my car is in that right spot. I'm not parking over driveways. It's not an issue that affects me directly, but I know several of my lovely neighbours have been affected by it, and it is a problem. The other thing that we really, really need is some signs about slowing down and the fact that there's a school in that vicinity. So the school has been there since 1960. We have very little signage. It's surrounded by 4 streets. 2 of them are very busy roads. You've got Middleton Road and Hanson's Lane. They are peak shortcuts for people getting through Riccarton, from Riccarton to Blenheim Road. And it is quite a busy school. Lots of people drive, not many children walk. My 3 are the thing, and we have to wait to cross our own street because it's so busy. So we just need more signage. I know the council did a lot of investigating around safety around our schools and speed reduction, and I've been updated this week that the government has unfortunately put the restriction on that. But I would love to see if the council has any scope to put some more signage in, even if it's just some of those children's signs. I've been requesting this for 7 years since my eldest daughter started school. We desperately want those speed restrictions. I know that their hands are tied, but surely we can put some more signage up. Lots and lots of people do not realise that there's a school entrance, and there's actually 2 entrances in that street. There's a little primary one and a very big one. So those are my requests. Obviously, I can write to the council with my requests. I did put that in my submission. Several of my school community people put it in their submission. So we're very grateful that our concerns have been listened to, because we were quite horrified about the suggestion of all the parking restrictions being removed. But we'd love to see just a little bit more in terms of like safety. Acacia Ave is another one that's absolutely diabolical and would really benefit from some car parking. Lots of students in that street, so perhaps less inclined to go through the process. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I understand the staff will be responding later on when
that's fine. I'm happy
you can stay on. Yeah. So now we have questions from Andre and Helen.
Thank you.
Andre first.
Thank you. You're very helpful as not just a resident, but
sorry, I don't have pretty
yeah.
pictures, but they're going to do a beautiful presentation.
Yeah, no, I've got everything. It's explained
Awesome.
beautifully. Just to note, I mean, that street might still be able to become a 30 because it's right outside the school gate. So, and then it'd just be other streets. There'd have to be signs on each end of the street as well, with 30. So
it's just like we put our submissions in, and it's been years, and I know the council is restricted by the government, but surely the council has some ability to put some signage in terms of like children, you know, that little orange one 100%. That they have. They may not be able to reduce the speed currently. I mean, we've talked about judder bars. The residents have talked about putting their own things in, and I was like, we need to go through the right process. So yeah, they could do it. The 30 seconds need to be much more effective. And we appreciate we might have to be patient.
I think we get clarity on that maybe by the end of the year. I think.
Clarity changing the rules.
All right. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you.
I have Helen and then Debbie.
Yes, I know a little bit about the high school, but you start at which year do people start?
It goes right the way through from new entrance, right the way to year 13, and there's about 1,400 students if you include 1,400 students.
Yes.
And it's quite big. Lots of people travel from the surrounding suburbs. There are people who walk, but nothing like your local school, because it's a special character school.
I wonder actually if this is just I'm floating an idea, we should do a traffic study around the whole area, because we did that with Villa Maria, and the reason we did that was because they had young pupils crossing a busy road. So it was more dangerous than third year 8s and 9s crossing. Okay.
If parents follow the current no parking restrictions, we actually don't need to have children crossing the road. And that was something that we put in there when the suggestion was made to remove the parking restrictions on both sides. We were like, this is a terrible idea. We're going to have 5-year-olds with parents crossing a very busy street. I believe the council did do a lot of traffic review as part of the safe speed thing. They had signage out and everything. So yeah, it's more like we just want a few other things. We're being a little bit greedy.
Oh no, I think you've probably been overlooked.
My children cross the road, but I can take responsibility for my 3. So yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie.
Hi, thank you very much for coming in. I understand the problems around there completely. My son went to Middleton Grange right through as well. and it's I'm glad that this is finally coming to our board, as it has been on the cards for probably, I don't know, 18 months or 2 years. Andrew will be able to tell us that. In regards to the 30 Ks, sorry, I didn't catch your name again, but you would you would probably agree with me that you can't travel 30 Ks down there anyway.
You can't when the street is full. There's
that's
always parents who are like, I'm late for work. And I usually just wave them down. In non-school times, people use it as a shortcut. And so they do drive quite quickly, but they do that down lots of streets. So it's kind of not too much of a concern.
Thank you again for coming, and you might want to stay and just listen to our staff member on the matter and what decisions we go ahead on that. But I'm glad it's come to us finally. But thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you. Sorry, there was one other thing. Currently, we have no parking restrictions from the Hanson's Lane into Arthur Street on both sides. And then when you get past the school drive-through drop-off zone, it becomes parking restrictions on the side only opposite the school. It would be nice if we could have some consistency. I know the council proposes to put 3 parks in with the Chinese consulate, and there's quite a lot of traffic, which makes sense. But it's quite confusing for parents currently. Like, there's no parking on both sides, but everyone does it anyway. And then you move down the street, and the primary parents know you can only park on one side. Like, people follow that, but because it's different on 2 halves of the street, it can be a little bit confusing. And it might keep the peace a bit more if we had school side right down the street parking, restricted parking right down the other side of the street. It'll depend on traffic flow and lots of other things, but I'm really just here to say, can we please have a bit more signage, a lot more clearer, and can we have some clear car parks put in? And I'll keep reminding the school community to follow the rules. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Janelle.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
great. Now moving on, since we're running late. We've got 2 more deputations on. Now we move on to the proposed road name 678 Kashmir Road. If I can please call on Joy Thane, please first. Joy first, and then and then we'll have Neil.
Can you guys see me by chance?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
You occasionally drop off, though.
We only seem to be seeing one person at a time.
Yeah, sorry, I had my hand up. I just wanted to make sure you saw me.
We've got to know who we're talking about. Now, that was my first flat, number 17, Arthur Street. It is now 4 units, so 17 doesn't exist.
Nice.
What? 15.
All right.
Got to know who we're talking about.
Carol,
No, good afternoon. Nothing prepared.
and you have 10 minutes. Sorry.
I wasn't expecting this, but for a few years I have been thinking I would love to have a street named in Halswell after my father. He was well known. He was born in Kashmir Road, in the house in the corner of Hoonhay Valley in Kashmir Road in 1923. And his parents had the farm there, which is right next door to the development that's, I'm hoping. He went to the war. He's got his name in the Halswell Hall on the Roll of Honour. He was an agricultural contractor, and he worked land all round Halswell, Aidenfield, Titap, knew everyone, and he was well known. When my mum and him got married, they lived in a cottage on the development that's going to be done for a couple of years when they first got married, and then they moved back to the house he was born in. And he lived in Halswell all his life, 92 years, and he died about 7 years ago. And his parents had farms in Kashmir Road, which they bought off Takeoff Wilson, and they also had farm in Henderson's Road, which is now owned by the council. So they were if you gave Dad a cucumber, he'd give you back a jar of honey. He was just one of those people. I think what else to say. He was well liked, and yeah. His neighbours put on a 90th birthday for him, and he spent his last year of life in the Anthony Wilding home. But other than that, and when he was away at the war, he lived in Halswell. And I've seen a few well-known names, street names in Halswell that people he knew and I knew. So I just thought, what a lovely idea if I could get a name. And Andre I think this one's been saved for me because I contacted the council about 5 or 6 years ago, and everybody's going to do it, but thanks to Andre, I'm here.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yep, if you can stay there for a while, because Andre has a question, and who else?
Yes, and yeah, and I caught you off guard a few days ago. I said, hey, hang on, there's got something on our agenda here. But so yes, able to mention where he resided. I think you mentioned basically right beside the section we're talking about. So
yeah,
we won't ever physically be able to find a road closer than this one, basically, to get it.
That's right. Yeah. And he's lived on that development. Yeah. So
but basically we won't ever be able to get closer.
No, yeah. No.
All right. Any other, Mark, right?
So, excuse my ignorance, but the name of your father's name and what you'd like the road name is?
His name was William Henry Gates, but he was known as Bill Gates and Willis Gates, but I prefer it wasn't Bill Gates. So I thought maybe Willis Gates.
But fair to say you'd be happy with any combination of names to work and not be too close to other names, whatever's able to be.
William Henry might sound better than Willis Gates, but he was known as those two. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for your time.
Right. That's my dad.
Right. And may I now call on Mr. Neil Oliver in relation to the proposed road name also of 78 Cashmere Road, which is item 9 of the agenda, right?
Thank you. I did look up you guys, wondered who you were, and had quite a few scraps lately. But you look like cordial, so I'm hoping you'll be voting for me. We'll see how we go. Full disclosure, I've got library books overdue, so hope you don't.
No fees anymore.
No fees, right. Second disclosure is I have been in politics before. In 1976, I was at Lincoln. I did an agricultural degree there, and along came a New Zealand USA. That doesn't USA as in the United States. That's University Students Association. A very big heavy came along, and he wanted to influence Lincoln students. And I was a Lincoln student politician, and he wanted to get us on side. He decided he would put through a petition that would lower the drinking age. Now, I didn't actually agree with that, and I did a lot of research and spoke against him. And he got 1 vote, and I got the rest of the quorum, which was quite a large crowd of Lincoln students who are known for drinking. So I won that one. You may have heard of him. His name is John Minto.
Yes.
We know John.
What year was
I thought you might know him. 1976. He was in there spouting at that time.
What a story. That's awesome.
That is a story.
Yes. I've been in Sydenham rugby clubs and things like that, and I had my arguments, and I've got 5 kids, so you can imagine what that's like. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say about the proposal. It's come up very late in the piece. Maybe I'll talk about that later when you discuss it. Suddenly having
This is the only time you can talk about it.
Really?
Yep.
Well, I find it a bit surprising to get a day's notice, well, not even a day's notice, less than a day's notice about a name change. I'm not, by the way, developing the whole of that section at the moment. Half of it is still rural land. So in the future, that may become a development. Let's get on to the names I have chosen. So now you've got...
Excuse me, can we check that you're the actual developer?
Yeah, I don't like the word developer because I'm just a
But-
humble ex-Lincoln student,
Okay,
but
but you're kind of managing.
I'll show you the thing in a
Okay.
second. Rates of $8,000 a year, and
Okay.
everyone else developing around calls that. How do I get this going? I've got a picture there somewhere.
A second, sorry, I'll have to start for you.
So the main name I want for the close, which is the bit going up the middle, is Blue Dusk, and that's a picture there trying to show you that. When you look out over, if you've heard of Tikuru Wetlands, which is a big council part, it borders two sides of where I am. So I'm Kashmir side on one side, Tikuru to the east and Tikuru to the north, basically, which is very nice. And I don't know if you can flick to the next one as well for me.
I'll just,
Possibly, if you get it back.
Just sharing it with the people in.
Right. But at night times with the blue mountains in the background and the blue of the sky, that is why Blue Dusk was chosen. If you can flick on, there's one more picture. That one's looking to the north from Kashmir Road. And that's why I chose that name for that. Are you able to flick it on?
Got the clicker.
Oh, sorry.
is that the one you wanted?
No, I wanted the one before that, but
Yeah, that's to me.
well, we're both doing it, I think.
Yeah, we're working against each other now, sorry.
Where are we now?
Is that,
Oh, that's the second one, yeah. So that's looking, you can see the end of Westmoreland there on the right. So that's looking at the moon over the side. So that all those trees and they all sort of shine blue in the evening, and it's a lovely look over that walkway. And most people walk there in the evenings, which is why I chose that name. Flicking to the next name in a second. So in 2011, there was a massive earthquake. My daughter was on one side of the PGC building and my sister-in-law was on the other side. This is my sister-in-law here, and she was killed in the earthquake, if you can forward that one. So that's Jane Marie, a lovely, lovely lady with two sons. And by the way, in case there's a royalist here, I've got to mention Prince William because he came around after the earthquakes and he said to youngest son when he said hello to him, he said, I know what it's like to lose a mother at a very young age, which I thought was a lovely thing for him to have. But we would like to name it after Jane Marie. We had a lot of devastation in the earthquakes. I knew 3 of the 4 people who ended up in wheelchairs from it. It was just seemed to be everyone we know got hit by it. My daughter is still in a lot of pain. She was 5 hours in the PGC earthquake. She was pulled out with the last attempt they made after running about 3 or 4 different methods of trying to get her out. The carpenter who was in there trying to help has never been able to go into a building, underneath a building again. Very, very traumatic for her. However, she, with this, rather other than the case for her legs, the rest of her is okay. One of her legs gives her pain continually, but she is about to have her 4th child in the next fortnight. So she is living on. So we would like to name this after Jane Marie and all those people. I mean, she to me is the typical impact of that. We know people like my kids went to Martin School, a young Chinese boy there killed. Just so many people we know, and those boys have had a very hard time. And even my younger daughter still suffers a lot just from the death of her. And the final one, I think we've got Tyler on the Maori representative on the. I haven't got a picture for it, but I want to get a Maori name because I was married by a Maori pastor, Fritoni. I have a Maori son-in-law out of Oamaru. I have a grandson in the Halswell Hornets. I'm sure is going to be a Maori All Black. And so I wanted a Maori name. I tried to get Waitiariki, Ngātahu, a bit anti that because it's mainly a Matamata name, not a South Island name. I then tried Tiariki, which actually also means summer, and it's the summertime we're there, and summer being my daughter, and I know you're not supposed to name after living people. I wanted that. They said no to that. But they did put a list of 5, and of those 5, Koawa, which is the last one, to me lined up the much with the area because it had the streams that it mentions, because that waterway, as you may know, comes and goes to save basically the Heathcote. And so in the middle of summer, there may be very little water in there. Right at the moment, it's full up for that area, which I believe is as big as South Hagley Park. So it's a wonderful area and asset to the city. So they're my 3 names. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board? You've got Andre and then Helen.
I thank you, and thanks given the history. Had you known about the history of William Henry Gates and you were made aware that there was the request for that name in the area, if you'd been aware of that, would you have been happy or prepared to consider that as one of the three?
I think that's a difficult question because I've only just heard about it. So
Yeah.
I can't tell you what I would. Maybe if there is a stage 2, certainly would look at that. I'm not sure if unfortunately, I once had a captain called Bill Gates who was 40 years old when the rest of the team were 20, and him and his best mate were also 40, did all the opening batting and all the bowling. So I have an aversion to Bill Gates as a name, but nothing about this Gates. Certainly, I quite like the name Gate, which I think was what someone said, or it might be called Willis Gate or something. So if I am still around, I've had a heart attack, I'm not sure if I ever will be, for phase 2, certainly I'd consider something Gate that might fit in there.
So sorry, this is about these three. Well,
I can't talk about had. I didn't know about it until less than 24 hours ago.
Understood. But if it were the case, potentially is what you're saying.
I'm saying that there is a half of that area is still rural. It's down for rezoning. If I'm around and survive the rigours of stage 1, I could consider it.
So my question now is, would you be prepared to consider the name incorporating William Henry Gates as one of these three?
No.
No, and why not?
Because I've put in a heck of a lot of effort. Had lots of fights with the council and ending up with Koawa. I really am very pro these other names and I want to keep them. And I believe I'm the one taking a huge risk on developing this land, which is really forced upon me. The reason you've got Tukura is because I agreed to give up irrigation rights that I had over the fence. I agreed to take all the dirt out of there, which you needed to get rid of, the council. And I gave them a strip of land, which they, right near the end, decided they needed down the side of it. So I think I've done my bit for the city council.
So your reasonings around effort? Well,
is that not a good reason, sir?
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's not, but so we've got three names.
I'd like to keep
that's
my answer, yes.
And the reasons around effort as opposed to suitability.
No, I think
a name up to William Henry Gates, like that to me seems like a suitable name for the area. So do you not agree it's a suitable name?
There are lots of names. There are names. General Kitchener, for goodness sake, is just up the road from me. The guy who sent my 2 grandfathers to war, and they were never the same again. One was in the last torpedo, one went Gallipoli, the Middle East, etc. Why is Kitchener a name up there? There's racehorses around the corner, a whole subdivision full of racehorse names. I think my names are perfectly adequate.
Okay.
I'm not saying that.
Right.
So I disagree with you. I can't. I don't wish to change my 3.
You wouldn't be willing to consider it, is what you're saying.
We've got his answer already, so I think we have to move on.
And also the stage of it is the design is in, the resource consent is already there. I've got to move on.
Right.
It can't be.
Okay, thank you. Helen?
Yes, I think you've answered it. You've got another section of land that you may develop?
It's currently rural, so it's a big square like that, basically what you saw on that picture.
Right, yes.
With Kashmir Road running along here.
Yes.
For historic reasons, a line came through there like that.
Yes.
And that was urban renewal, or can't quite remember the name straight off the top of my head. So that you're allowed to subdivide on. This one you're not. It's rural.
It's rural.
So
still rural.
So the city council are looking at on the omnibus going on at the moment, they're looking at changing that because it's not sensible to try and put a farm on 1 acre in a corner.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Oh, thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Move on to the next item, presentation of petitions. There was no presentation of petitions at the agenda. And then next is correspondence. We received correspondence from Megan Woods, Member of Parliament for Wigram, regarding the Yalders and Rusley Roads intersection. Is there any discussion on that? Yes, Mark?
Yep. Perhaps we note as we accept this that NZTA do have a project on that intersection.
Right.
I'm happy for us to receive this and then we can work with NZTA staff.
Or do we do we need to seek advice from staff on this one?
Well, just as much as anything, it's note the fact that there is a project.
Just note, yeah, just
Then-
receive, yeah,
Receive.
okay. Anybody else has anything to say? Right, okay. The next correspondence received was from Elsa Wright regarding Arthur Street proposed traffic and parking improvements proposal. That was circulated?
Yeah, circulated.
And it's noted, and it was received that. And we move on to staff reports.
So we will need to receive those two items of correspondence.
Yes, oh, yep.
So is it just receive or receive and note?
Yeah,
Just receive.
I guess, yeah, just
Receive and-
receive.
So that's Mark.
Seconded by Sarah. Sorry, because I look that way, so it's.
Yeah, I didn't.
Right, all right.
Vote on that.
Yep, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Thank you.
Okay. And we move on to Arthur Street. We can get the staff. Following the questions, I will ask staff to leave the table and then call for motions. Right, okay.
I think.
Just said, you sort your PowerPoint. Right?
Yeah, so kia ora koutou, we've included all the consultation detail in the report, but given that there's quite a lot of information, we're presenting a bit of a visual summary for you and for those at home that want to watch along. I'll hand over to Andrew, who's going to take us through the current issues, the current plan, and then I'll do a little bit about what we consulted on. So.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, certainly been a long-running issue. I think I found a report back in from 1992, I think, 1998. Similar issues. So it'd be fair to say there's it's been going on for a while, and there's also been various techniques and treatments tried over the years too. But
Just wait until it comes up.
just about to come up now, isn't it?
Yeah. Can you click it?
Next slide. Probably started on bullet points anyway. As mentioned, there's very high demand for this particular school being a destination school. And we're well aware of people coming from all around the city and further afield, and probably North Canterbury and also Selwyn, I think too. We've also got the more minor demand generator is the Chinese consulate. There's certainly a lot of pedestrian movements around the area too, turning movements with the vehicles, and parking compliance levels at times they are quite poor. And this is a drone, go back to the last slide. That's just a drone shot of the pickup drop-off area and the cars and the sort of angles and things that occur when people are moving around. Many of those vehicles you can see, and they're actually illegally parked as well. And that's with the current restrictions in place. But as we touched on before, interesting enough though, with that level of congestion, the speeds are actually really low and quite significantly lower than when that school traffic's not there. We've got a mean speed at the moment of 34.6 and the 85th of 43.9 throughout the day and night. But that drops right down to 14.9 and 17.1 between 8 and 9 a.m. and 3 and 4 p.m. So it isn't, I guess, inherently unsafe, but the congestion is probably the main frustration, and part of that frustration can lead to some safety risks as well. There's also restricted visibility at the intersections through congestion and illegal parking. There is restricted access along Arthur Street for either through traffic or traffic wishing to exit at the ends. And probably of most concern is the restricted visibility that occurs for pedestrians trying to cross at the school gate. And we did consider a lot of options, and I'll go through shortly some of the ones we have considered in a bit more detail, but do nothing was certainly an option. We felt that do nothing shouldn't be continued or put forward because it's not going to improve the situation. And if anything, the situation is likely to continue to get worse over time. We did look at removing all the time limited no stopping in conjunction with extending some of those permanent no stopping. That was one that went out for consultation. The main reason for that is due to the very poor performance and adherence to those time limited signs. Some have suggested that it may be that people aren't aware of those signs, and I agree that some additional signage and clearer signage should be put in, and that's in the recommended option. But it is also quite obvious that when we are there, or parking wardens are there, and photos are being taken and things like that people do actually move. So I think it's a case that people are choosing to ignore those restrictions rather than overall not being aware of them. We did look at removing parking on one side of Arthur Street or the other. I guess in summary, one side or the other is either a fairly blunt tool, because outside of school times there's not necessarily a lot of problems. It's also very inconsiderate if you are travelling in one particular direction to not be able to stop on that site. It's also likely to increase vehicle speeds and also increase the amount of U-turning traffic, which will probably lead to more congestion. So the recommended option is to remove the parking on both approaches to the pickup drop-off area, and that will assist in the formation of queues to get in and out of the pickup drop-off area. And so in that sense, the plan is quite balanced. We did consider even prohibition of turning movements in and out of the off-street pickup area. Not a council decision, but one potentially we could recommend to the school, but that has a whole lot of spill-on effects, likely to also either be ignored and also to have U-turning in the middle of Arthur Street. So same goes with removing the right turn at Arthur Street and Hanson's Lane intersection, given the performance of the one at Larson's Road and Horsell Road. Once again, not recommended. We even had some discussions about whether the pickup drop-off area itself would be recommended to be shut. But I think given the capacity of it and its ability at times to function, I think it's a lot better than some of the pickup drop-off areas at other schools that we have actually recommended closing. So I don't think we're at that stage yet, and I'd rather give the recommended option a chance to perform before we go down there. And the last one was reducing the extent of the time restricted no stopping and extending the permanent P60. So that's pretty much the recommended option.
Yeah. So I'll go over a little bit more detail on what was consulted, just to remind everyone. So extension of yellow no stopping lines at the curves in the road outside the school, as well as at the intersections to improve visibility and congestion, but also a removal of the time restricted signage, as well as 3 additional car parks to cater to consulate visitors. We held several meetings with Middleton Grange throughout the process, as well as after the consultation process, and met early on with the Chinese consulate. Ben is here if you have any questions for the school. He felt like Janelle has done a really good job of describing from the school's perspective as well. So all Arthur Street residents had a booklet in their mailbox detailing the proposed parking layout changes, and they were also available in the local library. The consultation was marketed to parents via the Middleton Grange newsletter, and we had quite a good response from parents. And then obviously who we would typically consult with from emergency services and other key transport stakeholders. I think it's worth noting that barely anyone currently feels safe on Arthur Street. So only 18.6% currently feel safe, and over 60% feel unsafe or very unsafe. So it's just as much about perceived safety as it is about, the technical side of things as well. We didn't have a lot of support for the initial plan, so we only had 19% support and 40.5% somewhat support. However, we had quite a lot more support for the yellow no stopping lines, so that's a majority there are happy with the yellow no stopping lines, and still majority supported the 3 P60 car parks. So it was clear to us that something was wrong here with the plan. poor support for the removal of existing time restricted parking being the main issue, with 32 submitters indicating to us that it would hinder traffic flow and safety. Some also mentioned compliance would still be an issue. So that's definitely something we'll be following up with. And 21 submitters requested permanent no stopping lines on one side of the street to improve traffic flow. And again, we can go into detail about that option and what staff looked into. So just want to summarize again some of the requests that were made for this project. So 21 mentioned permanent no stopping lines on one side of the street. We had another 6 mention make signage clearer and increase the presence of it. 6 people wanted a school crossing for this street. Some mentioned a short-term drop-off pickup zone outside the school on the street, installing speed bumps, and then extending yellow lines even further for those points that are about visibility. And then the final plan that we consulted, the main difference is that reinstatement of some of that time restricted signage on certain parts of the street, as well as additional no stopping after consultation with the school outside 33 and 35 Arthur Street. And that just really helps with the pinch points around the school. So we did some targeted engagement with the households, and we didn't receive any feedback one way or the other from those households. So this is kind of what we're putting to you today as a bit of a compromise. And we feel like we've worked quite hard with the school to get a bit of a balance here, who are in support of the plan, but I think there's a bit more work to do as well in detailed design and ongoing, just making sure that it's gonna work for the community.
And certainly of those things that have been suggested today and that we looked at, the suggestion of the short-term pickup drop-off on Arthur Street itself, we felt the best option still the off-street pickup drop-off. But also a short-term pickup drop-off on Arthur Street is likely to hinder traffic flow because it would probably best be sited where the proposed no stopping lines are now, or within the existing ones. So there was a concern that having one on the street would actually, aside from the compliance levels, would actually be counterproductive to the flow. Just quick, some other ones. There was the ones about speed humps and speed signage. We're certainly supportive of the proposed 30 kilometres an hour speed limit and just awaiting that guidance from government. But given the speeds that are operating down there, it would be difficult to justify installation of speed humps and things based on the speeds at the moment. Probably sites that are be higher up the list. Certainly the new signage would be clearer, and the intent is to install more new signs. And as the suggestion was made regarding Wednesdays, I think we'd be happy to amend the resolution to start those signs at 2:15. Install a school crossing. I guess it's a separate but related issue. It is relatively narrow, Arthur Street, so the ability to cross is not a very long distance. And the additional permanent no stopping will quite significantly improve the visibility for pedestrians. So I guess that's one to revisit later on if the issues are still persisting. But once again, would have to be assessed against other safety projects. We had suggestions to make Arthur Street one way, but it doesn't carry the volumes that would normally have for a one-way road. It's likely to have issues at the intersections and have unintended consequences. And just 2 or 3 other ones, because we had heaps of suggestions to look through. It was actually really interesting consultation process because people were quite active in putting forward possible solutions. Traffic signals at Middleton, Blenheim, outside the scope of the project, and unfortunately the intersection's not high on the priority for signalisation. But that is one of the challenges if you ban a right turn, is that things like that, you end up, vehicles would actually have to turn right at Arthur Street and Middleton Road, and then try and turn right at Middleton and Blenheim.
Yeah, good luck.
To head west. So that was, and I think the school quite rightly highlighted that as a concern for parents. Installation of road cones. These are temporary traffic management measures. Technically, it's working on the road, and unless they're actually in the middle of the parking spaces, it's unlikely to be effective. And by putting them in the middle of the parking spaces, you're actually cutting down the usable road width. And the last one, and this was mentioned, installation of parking ticks. Yes, happy to do that. That's the white lines at the driveways to assist drivers to indicate where they should be and where they shouldn't be. Yeah. So that's probably about all I can add at the moment. But yeah, a very lengthy process, and I don't believe this plan will solve all the issues, but the recommendation in the plan is that it is our best effort on balance to improve the situation.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'll take questions now. I've got Tyler, Mark, Helen. Tyler, please.
Kia ora, guys. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Andrew Hensley, man of the hour, man with the power. How are you?
Good, thank you, Councillor Harrison.
Let's skip the formalities and get straight into the business. I just wanted to talk into. I've got a few questions if it's right with the Madam Chair. The first one is: would we need to add an amendment for the 215 signage as you were talking about before?
Yes. The resolution would have to be amended. I believe it's a minor technical amendment, but I'd have to defer to the governance manager as to the significance of that.
Sorry, I missed.
Cool. I can move that if you want to chuck that on.
I'll second that too.
I didn't hear that. I'm
Oh,
sorry, we were doing technical stuff.
No, but it's so he knows he's got to second it.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, I was saying, I believe changing the resolution from 2:30 to a start time at 2:15
PM. Yeah.
PM to be a fairly minor change to the recommendation.
So that's
resolution.
5.
But I'd have to defer to the governance manager as to the significance of that.
So you're changing your recommendation now.
It's to amend the recommendations to an earlier start time by 15 minutes in the afternoon.
So that's an item 5. Yep. In the
Yes, item 5, changing 2:30 to 2:15. That's it.
In an early, only in the afternoon, not in the morning.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
5.
5,
Cool.
9.
That's the first one.
Yeah, 9, 5, 9, and 11.
For the back office, Mahi.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Awesome. How good you know? Awesome.
Hasn't been moved yet, but
When do
Yep.
you move it?
Finish the question.
Okay, finish the questions. Right, Mark, please.
Oh, sorry, I've got more if that's right.
Oh, Tyler still has more, sorry.
The next one is the signage, and can you just in layman's terms talk about the feasibility of adding more signs on the lampposts as per Janelle's deputation? Do you wanted bi-directional signs added?
I think we can look at the angle of the signs so they're more visible. At the moment, or on many occasions, these parking signs are installed parallel to the curb. I think the signs themselves will actually be will be more visible, and the intent is to shorten the spacing between the signs. There is some limitations as to what we can put on certain poles that Orion own.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably a detailed design consideration, but certainly the intent is to increase the frequency of the signs and shorten the spacing over the length that these restrictions apply. And also to angle them and check the height to make sure they do serve their purpose as well as can. But I'll just highlight again that I don't think that's the primary issue with people parking in those spaces.
No, I agree. I mean, people on Lincoln Road, for example, say they don't see the bus lane, but that's a big, massive green part of 15 metres long. So I feel your frustration. The next question then is, moving on from that, is talking about you did talk about the feasibility with the lack of feasibility for speed humps, but in some of the reports they talked about a safe crossing point, such as a pedestrian crossing or zebra crossing without those speed humps implemented. Can you talk to me about the feasibility of what that might entail if it is feasible or if it isn't, or a school crossing without a speed hump?
The two crossings, and I guess this is outside the scope of this particular report and project, but the two type of crossings, or three types of crossings outside of school is typically one where there isn't any priority to users, which is like curb build outs, or in this case, just the curb lines as they are given the short crossing distance. The other ones would be a care crossing, which is a priority control, which the school kids are warranted to swing signs out on to stop traffic. And the other one is a permanent zebra with the swing out signs, which is school patrol. Typically to install a school patrol now, and similar to the Hi-Ho Road memo, which was distributed, the recommendation is usually to install traffic calming either side to support it. In this particular case, though, we'd have to be really careful where it was positioned because of the amount of turning movements in and out and the amount of vehicles that are queuing. I think there's probably a lot more work needed to be done to pinpoint where a crossing point would be. There isn't anywhere obvious that doesn't have problems at this stage, put it that way, unfortunately.
Something that won't hinder movements is very hard to find, right? If we're going to look at doing something like that.
I think what is important, and this is another reason not to prohibit the parking all on one side, is to maintain lengths of parking on both sides at various stages of the street, and to try and reduce the amount of opportunities or need for people to cross.
Which is improving sight lines.
Yeah, and that too.
Yeah.
So I think there's certainly more work and more discussions to be had.
Okay, last two questions, if that's right, Madam Chair.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
All right. It's all good.
Sorry, continue. Sorry.
Tyler, you have any further questions?
Okay, yep. The next one was two that are somewhat connected. Reason being is there's flow-on effects on the Hanson's Lane and Middleton Road sides.
Yep.
And I wanted to ask Andrew around, seeing as it may not be looking at as being a priority within your own internal priority lists. Excuse my mind block. How would the board, if there was some appetite, look into pushing that up on the priority list, or even getting it looked at into a report on the flow-on effects of the Hanson's Lane, aka Hanson's Lane or Middleton Road signalisation, which will probably be in the long-term plan? Can we add a noting provision in this resolution or not?
The board may wish to resolve to raise that with staff, to ask where those intersections are currently in the program, and if they are not ranked sufficiently high enough to the satisfaction of the board could, through those budget processes, advocate or support the high prioritisation of those.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that. The last question, very last question, is: do we need to add an amendment to add those white lines outside of the driveways, as what Janelle was talking about, or are you okay doing it internally?
Yeah, that's staff delegation, as I understand, and yeah, be happy to do that.
You're happy to actually do it?
Yep.
So perhaps if we just note that as a note, yeah, otherwise we'll lose track of it.
We'll make a noting provision.
Yeah, a note at the bottom. Hey, is there a problem?
Notes that Andrew.
A note?
No, I haven't been, nothing's been moved yet, I'm just.
No, well, he's saying we don't need to move it.
No,
It's a note. that-
Yes, but it will go into your resolution, the note will go into your resolution.
Okay.
You're asking,
Okay.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, we trust staff. It's just so that the public know we're
Yes,
noting.
we
that-
need to remind ourselves.
We keep
Yeah,
forgetting.
it's pretty clear.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Any more, Tyler?
No, that's me. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
right.
Appreciate it. Thanks for giving me
All
my
right,
time.
thank you, Tyler. I'll have Mark and then Helen and Sarah.
Excellent, thank you. Thinking down to the problem intersection of Arthur Street onto Hanson's Lane, is there any way that we could, as a council, look at the idea of putting an extra piece of lane down there, perhaps move some curb and put a left turn lane so that the right turn lane doesn't block the left turn? It's fairly tight, but whether there's anything we could do engineering wise around that.
It is fairly tight, and I did have the conversation in the office around, was it feasible to even shift the centre line over? I guess the short answer, it isn't. It's,
so
it's about 7.8 metres wide, I think, which is, looking at the property boundaries, realistically, the way to do that would be either a one-way street, which is fraught with problems in my view, and the other would be probably to purchase land.
No, jolly good. I have to ask the question and sort of raise that as a possibility. And I guess with the, changes here, we'll still be encouraging more enforcement to help us out here, and continue education through the school as well. And hopefully between the two we can.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we can continue to have that kōrero about whether or not it's working. A big part of what we do is around encouraging parent behaviour as well. So we've got a community travel advisor team that can work with the school, and that's around getting kids to school safely, but also have some advice for us on shifting parent behaviours. So that's just a conversation that's going to have to continue, I think.
Yes. It'll be a continuous conversation.
I've been out in a high vis on the road when we helped with the drop-off zone for a term. We actually got on the road because we have constant traffic jam, and it is parent behaviour.
Yeah,
and the school is working really
Excuse
hard.
me, we can't have people in the gallery speaking. That's right.
Yeah.
We can move on because we are
Yes.
running late, right?
So thinking of that enforcement, is there any way that as a council we could look to empower some of the school staff and or parent body to help with that enforcement?
My understanding, to enforce those rules, you have to have a warrant.
Yes.
Be a warranted officer. I'm not familiar enough with who is able to hold a warrant or be provided a warrant to fully answer that, but that could be a question we could ask parking compliance.
Yeah, well, I'd be interested to hear an answer on that. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark. I'll get Helen and then Sarah.
Yes, we've dealt with the 215 and the ticks. The next question I have is that this is a major school. It's larger than I thought, 1,400. And yet, do we have a sign up saying Middleton Grange School on that road?
There wouldn't be a sign that would say Middleton Grange School, the standard school sign, but
A standard school sign.
But I have noted that we're happy to review the signs around the whole school.
Okay, that's fine. I'd like,
including Acacia Ave as well, which is
Yes.
raised very recently too.
yes.
So,
yes.
so
Okay, so
that-
you'll have a look. Now, the other, touching on that, every year at council, they approve some schools to have slower speeds and special signs. I think they've got one around Boys High at present. So that they've got, so every year some schools get approved for special signage. Has this school been looked at? Because I can't recall it, but I'm not on council now, but it doesn't seem to have come through. And yet it seems to me an ideal school, particularly in this area, for having that special sign. Because I've driven down there and I was quite surprised to see Middleton Grange School there. I remember at the time, hadn't realised that. So I know Acacia Avenue.
The speed signs are unlikely to be warranted given the lower operating speeds. On a road such as where Boys High is,
yes,
we have much higher volumes and free running traffic. That's mainly where those type of signs are installed.
Okay.
So static signs and upgrading static signs would be the recommended option to raise.
So that's the reason it hasn't come through, obviously.
And the speeds are relatively low, actually very low at times.
Okay.
But it should be also acknowledged that the school is used outside those school hours for sport.
Yes.
I know, my kids have played basketball there in the evenings and things. So the school activity that occurs is actually broader than just those main pickup.
Well, I wonder if you'd have a look at whether it did fit on a list of schools that have that special signage. The other question I've got, and this is really a more detailed view of it, it's got Acacia Avenue and Hanson's Lane. It's 1,400 pupils, including primary pupils. So they're quite young crossing there. And Catherine Chu and myself about 2 years ago met with the principal at Villa Maria and the head prefect, I think, and out of that came a special traffic study of Villa Maria. And then we lost that particular section to Waimari in terms of local government. So I've lost track of that, but we did start up a special, sort of comprehensive traffic study of Villa Maria, around Villa Maria. Could we do the same here? Because it seems you've got two entrances. It's not clear in Hanson's Lane that if you're driving through, you suddenly find a school there. A large school now, it's as large as Villa Maria, I think. Yeah, so
it would need to be prioritised against the other schools, which the school travel planners and the education team work on. I've signalled that we're happy to look at Acacia Avenue as well.
yeah, so having both and having a look at what the problems are and what can be done in the sort of total sense, and involving the school and the board. Because we did start one at Villa Maria, which is not quite the same issues because they've got fast speeding cars on Yaldhurst Road, but it's got elements of a large school in a kind of difficult area. Which I think this is actually. So should we just park that in the meantime, or?
I can give an undertaking that we'll look at Acacia Avenue as well.
As well as a special study.
And I think a good option is for staff to check where the school is in the school travel planning program, which also looks at those wider issues.
Yes,
but I'm not sure what their priority list is at the moment in regard to Middleton Grange, so I can't really comment too much on that.
And you've certainly got some of the issues that Villa Maria had, where probably stronger actually, where people are coming from across Christchurch to the school and they're coming in cars. So it's the same sort of a special school status, but people from across Christchurch.
Yes,
so,
thanks for that, Helen.
Yes,
And we'll look into it in more detail then. Do you have any further questions?
That's all.
I'll have Sarah and then Mark and then Tyler. Do you have your hand up again or?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So Sarah, Mark, and then Tyler, and then probably we'll finish it off there because it's getting late.
Yeah, I won't be long. Just to clarify, the parking ticks, will they be on either side of every driveway, excluding the yellow lines along Arthur Street?
Yes, I think they would need to be. Whether we need to extend them fully down the street, I'm not entirely sure. But certainly the parks that get occupied the most around the school, yes.
Okay, and they're a 1 metre setback from the driveway, is that right?
1 metre setback from the usable driveway. So sometimes people are surprised how close the 1 metre usable driveway actually is. But
what do you mean by that?
I think because the 1 metre usable driveway is an extension of the narrowest point of the driveway, not the cut.
Okay.
and the cut down is typically wider. But
So it's quite close to the driveway.
it can be, but it also, it is what is enforceable.
Yes.
So there's really no benefit to marking them further away.
Yes.
Because if someone is overhanging them, and they're still within the meter, it's
Yes.
not enforceable.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll have.
Sorry, can I just interrupt? Sorry, but I put a suggested resolution that people might want to consider. It's only around that note, but I've put that parking ticks to be installed either side of driveways adjacent to no stopping lines. But is that adjacent correct, or would it be in the vicinity?
Along the street.
Well, yeah, where needed might be what won't. I'm just
Both
thinking
side of driveways.
Yeah.
In Arthur Street where needed.
it may not be as critical.
Could we approve in principle and then staff do it?
We don't need to approve it.
Like, could we approve in principle and then just you work with staff on the
Yes,
on the resolution
it
itself?
doesn't need approval.
It doesn't
I
need
think that's
approval.
better,
So,
actually.
Tyler, apparently it doesn't need approval.
Staff.
Staff delegation.
Yeah, cool.
We're just noting it
Yeah.
here,
Just like,
so we don't forget. All right,
Sorry for that.
okay, thank you, Faye. I'll have Mark and then Tyler, and then we'll,
mine will be a really quick
Yeah.
one, hopefully. The school signs, are you able to check the presence of school signs around all entrances to the school just to make sure they're actually there and installed if they need to be?
Yes.
Yeah, because I can see one that's on Suva Street that's facing the wrong way in Google Street Maps. Thank you.
right, Tyler, thank you.
Kia ora, just another noting provision if it's okay with staff. And a small investigation or feedback to staff informally around where the surrounding streets are on the priority list. Is that okay, Andrew?
In what regard are they on the priority list for?
So we don't need a report, but maybe offline would be able to get a memo around the priority lists of Hanson's Lane intersection and the Middleton Road and potentially Acacia Ave.
Yes.
I don't want to give staff heaps of work. It'll be just cool to get a memo of where they are on the priority list.
You think about the priority list for traffic lights.
Or any other traffic improvements, I guess. It's more around the flow of cars than slowing it down, really, because they're sort of they're arterial routes, so don't really want to hinder any movement. It's just making them safer, really.
Cool.
The next question is, I do know that we've got a budget for schools because my portfolio, I tried to find all the budgets for transport, and we used to give funding, discretionary funding from staff to schools to be able to help manage the inflow of people driving in and doing stop-offs. Are we able to provide some of that resource still? I'm not sure if it's still in the budget or not after the long-term plan. I think it was a budget line of school safety provisions or something like that, where they provided high visors, things like that. It came with the minor traffic safety improvements or something. Am I correct in thinking that?
I'm not sure if there is still a budget, but there was, and it was, you're right, it was utilised for things like fluoro vests and flags to help the kids when they walk across the road and things. But we'd have to refer that to the travel demand team and the education team who look after those aspects. But yeah, certainly that it used to be there.
Yep. That'd be great if we could refer it if it's still in the budget. If not, all good, we can work around it, I'm sure. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Andrew. Right, thank you.
So, you move in a second about
Tyler,
this.
you want to move this?
Hang on a second. I'll just
Right.
put up what I think.
Yep.
I'll just put up what I think you want to move. So that is the staff recommendations showing at 5, 9 and 11, those changed times. for school stoppages, and also showing the note that now reads, notes that parking ticks are to be installed either side of driveways in Arthur Street where required.
Okay, so we've got a mover,
Moved as Tyler.
Tyler,
Happy to second.
second, Mark.
Perfect.
I'll get you Hank next time.
Tyler,
Tyler and Mark. Any debate?
I'd like to.
I'll have Mark and then Helen.
Yes. I'd really like to thank Andrew and the team for taking this on. This has been a long-standing issue for too many years. I do kind of know this area because I've had one daughter who's now moved on from Middleton and another who's currently there. But thankfully, she now drives herself to school, so she's probably part of the problem. But the special character and the area school nature of this school is quite, fairly unique. But being an area school, it's got a huge catchment. I think it comes from Riccarton and carries on through. It's massive. So to see this being tackled and looking to be improved is really appreciated. And here's hoping we can find a way through encouragement to the parent body to improve their behaviour and with enhancement as needed, and then extra signages around and extra markings. I hope we can improve this and start to tame this rather large monkey that's been a problem for too long. So thank you for your work, and I'm really keen to see this get in place and just see how we can work to improve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Helen?
Yes, I want to thank the person who came and spoke to us, and to all the other people who made submissions. It's obviously as a large school which hasn't got a major road beside it, so it's got particular issues. So I'm pleased we're moving this, but I think it's only a first step. And what I'd like to see, and Andrew's agreed to explore it, is whether we can be put on the school list for traffic control in terms of kilometres per hour, but more importantly, see if we can do a total traffic management plan for the school. Because I think it's grown beyond the local roads that serviced it, say, 10 years ago. So, I mean, it's good it's grown, but it's got its complications. So I'd hope we can eventually move to a comprehensive traffic management plan for the area.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. So I will now put this motion. Okay.
Tyler?
Oh, Tyler wants to say something. Okay, go ahead, Tyler.
It's all about the minutes, Murray, Anyway, kia ora koutou. Apologies for not being there in person. I'm in the hustling, bustling city of Melbourne at the moment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, lucky me, I'm away for 4 days on work and a holiday, so should be good fun. But anyway, I would like to just give my thanks to probably the most favourite staff member in all of council of the Riccarton Community Board, and that is Andrew Hensley. I've never seen a man be able to bring someone together like this. And there's two things that governors always try to do: is they try to be right and they try to be effective. And it's quite often that they're either right and ineffective, or they're wrong and they're effective. But for some reason, Andrew Hensley and the engagement team are able to be both. So it's really cool to see this get over the line. I would also like to give a shout out to Janelle and all of the submitters who gave all of their thoughts. And while reading through all of it, I've done a lot of reading over the last week. But this one here was one that I couldn't get my head around. It was mind-boggling how confusing it was. And I quite often used to use this street not to drop my kids off. I was actually to play basketball and actually coach basketball. And even on Wednesdays, it was absolutely manic. And on Saturdays, it was absolutely manic. I really felt for the residents at the time. But seeing it get over the line, I'm really happy to see it. But there is more work to be done. And as the local councillor, this is my bread and butter, school safety, something I really love and enjoy. And seeing it get over the line is really important. But there is more work to be done. We need to investigate what's going on in the peripherals, what's going on with the flow-on effects from this change. And if there is any more issues like Acacia Lane, Hanson's Lane, Middleton Road, and all of those surrounding streets are really important for us to ensure that our school kids are safe. Anyway, long story short, good to see everyone virtually, and looking forward to seeing it get over the line. Thanks for your support, team. Kia ora.
Thank you, Tyler. Yep. So do we put the motion, the whole block,
On the screen, so
on the
Yep.
screen?
the changes are highlighted.
Yep, and note the changes. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Great. Thank you.
What a messy area.
Now we move on to the proposed name of, road name of 678 Kashmir Road, item number 9. Do we have staff? Right, oh, you, Marilyn.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Marilyn Reno, Principal Advisor. I will take this report as read, but I'm here to answer questions if you have any.
Right, any questions from the board?
Well,
Helen.
So what's happened here is you've done the report, is this correct? And then you've had some concerns expressed.
That's correct.
And we've got, unusually, we've got both sides here, in fact, tonight.
That is quite unusual.
Yes, yes, okay, thank you.
Great, Andre?
So a name suggestion was given 5 or 6 years ago. Where has that gotten to?
It's hard for me to answer that
Sure.
because I don't know where it was submitted to. The process is that the developer suggests the names, and then that's when it first comes to council and it goes through all that checking process.
Yeah, so what you're saying, so a request was made of council 5 or 6 years ago. What you're saying is that request ultimately goes nowhere. Because that's the process, right? So someone's made a request, but it hasn't gone anywhere and it will never go anywhere unless until the moment we like this, basically, is the only way of it ever going
Yeah,
anywhere.
it's possible
Yeah.
that it may have gone and sat with a staff member.
Yeah,
And of course,
yeah,
it's really hard for the continuity to flow through, five or
Understood.
6 years
Yeah,
later.
yeah.
I suspect that might be the case.
yeah. But yeah, what you're saying is ultimately the only way for it ever to be considered is, well, it comes to something like this, and then we look back and say, well, no, this wasn't considered, so.
Yeah, I think you're possibly right.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other?
So I'd like to move the resolution that I've sent through.
Are there any other questions?
Are there any other questions? Tyler?
Yes. Sorry, I had to double hand. I'm just wanting to get everything clear here because Councillor Moore is going to put through a resolution for an alternative, right? And is that right, Andre? You want to put through a resolution for an alternative name, or are you wanting to table it?
Well, I can tell you what it is if you like.
Yeah, I'll try and bring it up, Andre.
Before I ask my question.
Well, it's copying and pasting 1 and 2.
No, I'll just try and bring up your suggestion.
We're just bringing up Andre's suggested motion.
Well, Tyler, basically, it asks staff to work with developer to ensure all suitable names have been considered before presenting recommendations back to the board.
Okay, is that a generalisation, in terms of every single engagement here?
Yeah, 100%. It ensures all certain names have been considered. What would be made aware is that a name introduced 5 or 6 years ago hasn't yet to date been considered for any roads in the area.
Okay, so is it still approving these 3 names?
No, it's asking staff to work to consider all suitable options being considered before presenting the recommendations back to the board before names are approved.
Okay. Okay.
So
then
it's not approving or rejecting any specific names.
So tabling it.
So you want to lay the report on the table?
Well, that's effectively what it does.
Okay. Great. Yeah, that's good because it leads on to some good questions.
If that needs to be added, then adding that, yeah.
Lay the
we
report
put
on the
Jackson
table.
one.
Well, ask staff to
Receive
lay.
the information and leaves the report on the table. So is that right?
Yeah. Well, it does, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so that leads me to my next questions is, that's clear now, Andre, cheers.
Yeah, no.
In terms of the process So let me be clear. So the developer comes up with some names to be approved by the board. The board either approves the names that goes through staff to be approved.
That's correct. So there is a policy, a council policy that's been endorsed most recently, 2023, and essentially that's the policy.
So it approves or doesn't approve. Doesn't just approve, it approves or doesn't approve. Because the delegation sits with the community board.
Yes, that's right. So then if the community board declines this, they're forced to go back to the developer, and then the developer then reviews it and then comes back to the board, right?
Yeah, that's what we would do as staff. Yes. So we would take the recommendation, go back to the developer and feed back to them, and then they have the ability to respond to that. And then you would see a report come back through.
Sure. So I'm only talking in ambiguities here. This is not about this issue that we're talking about. So what if there's a stalemate? What happens if there's a stalemate? So if the developer doesn't like the disapproval from the board, and the board doesn't like the names from the developer, what happens then?
I think we would come with a recommendation that reflects the policy. So there's a number of aspects that we work our way through, and that's whether a name is in or out. Probably relevant for this one is that one thing because of the very late nature of this, we've asked LINZ to comment, and there's an issue with using gates because we already have a gates lane, and it's possible that LINZ would reject it anyway.
So there are multiple variations of the name that could potentially work. So you've asked about one name.
We've asked about using gates.
So you've asked about one word of the three.
So the specific one was Willis Gates, but they may reject it because it's using gates and we already have gates. And so because there's that potential to confuse and someone not being able to specify with accuracy, for example, emergency services, LINZ.
But you don't know if they will reject the other potential variations of the name. You don't yet know that.
No.
Because you've only asked about one as opposed to the others.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so that process hasn't ultimately gone through at this point in time because they've been asked. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm seeing here is, let me just sort of try and add a bit of piece to this. So what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing two particular names which have a personal connection to the developer, which was a beautiful story, and I appreciate you for coming in, mate. It's really cool. And the blue dusk was actually a really interesting part there. But what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing some kind of opening with the blue dusk part. As beautiful a view it is, you do actually gain a personal connection to the environment that you're in, and the blue dusk is quite particular, which is a really nice story too. But what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing two that are non-movable and one that could potentially be movable, and I'm not sure if the developer does feel that way.
Is that a question, please?
So what I'm trying to get at here is, can you approve 2 lanes and then say, for example, one road be disapproved?
I won't. I'm not looking to change the wording of this resolution. I think it asks us to ensure all suitable names are being considered. It's not approving or not approving certain names, because it's considering them as a whole, not throwing out one and saying, yeah, this one's okay. So it's not how I think we should approach it.
But that's what we're doing right now. We've heard the narrative, so this sounds like a really straightforward resolution.
Yeah. So
Okay.
So I think the wording of the resolution is suitable.
I wonder if Tyler, do you have any further questions?
Sorry, it was for staff. It was for staff, not my mate Andre. But can we say no to lane 1, lane 2, but go back to the drawing board with blue dusk?
Yeah, I believe so.
And the last question is, if we did put the whole thing on the table, what impact would that have upon the development, not the developer?
Well, road naming comes in at a particular point. So, subdivision has got a number of steps. Road naming must be done before the 223 title plan goes into LINZ and gets approved. So not naming the roads means they can't continue on. And then there's all the engineering works. And then, of course, at the end of that, the developer has title and then something to sell. So
I see. So we'll essentially be holding up the development for a month.
Yeah. And so bearing in mind the developer's holding costs and all of his particular forward program, I imagine wouldn't be ideal.
Man, I hate council process. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's it. Thanks.
We did this a number of months ago for a
Thank you,
different reason,
Tyler.
wasn't it?
I've got another question from Sarah.
Is there any way in the policy that can ensure that a variation of this particular name that hasn't been considered could be considered for future? Or is it?
Yeah, I think there possibly is. I mean, we've heard from Mr. Oliver that there is a future potential subdivision, or there are other subdivisions in this area. We have a particular staff member who is the author of this report, along with myself, LaShawn Miller, and it's possible that when we grant consent, we can put an advice note saying this is a local name for you to consider it and attach information.
And would that be different to what you said when the staff, 6 years ago, had that same thing happen?
Yeah, it's really hard for me to comment on where that request went to and who it went to.
Paulo.
Pardon me?
Paulo.
Sorry, I don't know that person.
Paul.
Oh.
Consent manager.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting. I'm not, it's really hard. I'm not sure.
If I could come in here, I made an inquiry of staff, and the name is there. It's now on a list. I don't know whether it was previously on a list, but it was suggested to at least one previous developer, but wasn't taken. That's all the advice. That's all I can add, if that's helpful.
Okay.
And was that on the report that came to the board for the approval of that?
No.
Okay.
That was a query from Faye. So any other questions from anybody else? No? All right, thank you, Marilyn. Great.
Can I see the resolution, please?
I'm just trying to get it together. I'm just adding that bit in bracket line on the table.
And just a reminder that it's exactly what we did about 2 months ago about some road names.
But we normally refer back to the developer. We've got the.
Well, that's what this does.
Yeah, but he's come tonight. Yeah, I mean, we've been told no.
Well, no, we haven't. This is exactly what we did 2 or 3 months ago with those names when the Halls Residents Association came to speak to us. This is exactly what we did. We asked them to make sure they considered all names appropriate to the area.
But they weren't in the room.
Exactly the same thing.
They weren't in the room.
But we make decisions based on the merit of the decision, not just because people are in the room or not in the room. We make decisions based on the.
But we've got the answer, I think.
So to be, yes.
We've got the answer.
So we can't say we can't do it if 2 months ago we did it.
Madam Chair,
We'll just put up the motion.
Hang on, I'm just going to hear it with Tyler.
Sorry, would it be in order, Madam Chair, to ask for a quick 5-minute break, a debrief, so we can actually chat about this informally? Because there is a difference in this around principality. The developer's come to us for once, and he's given us deputation, and he's told us no, he's not willing to move on it, which is a lot easier and faster.
I've had advice
Well, if you'd like to,
we cannot talk about it informally, so we'll have
then let go of standing orders to have an open and honest.
I mean, that's the possibility.
I don't need to let go of standing orders.
We can, if you move that, Tyler, I'll second it.
Yes, but what standing orders do you want to let go of?
Oh, we just want to have I've done that occasionally as chair, have an informal discussion on it.
Well, unless you don't, because you've done questioning, right? We don't want to go into debate.
No, just.
Is there a second for Andre's motion?
That's right. So I put
Yeah,
that
Andre's
on,
moved it.
Andre, I've added in that, just at 3, later report on the table.
Yeah.
Otherwise, is that what you want to know?
That's correct, yeah.
I would second it if we were able to approve lane 1 and lane 2, so the developer can move forward and see if he's willing to move on road 1. That's what I would like to ask Councillor Moore, because if we're holding up the development, and if the board personally feels okay with Koawa Lane, majority feels okay with Koawa Lane and Jane Marie Lane, but could potentially move on Blue Dusk, I would like to move forward with Lane 1 and Lane 2 and go back to the table with Road 1. Does that make sense? It seems like a sensible resolution to be able to try and find a middle ground here.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I just imagine all three would need to be done at the same time anyway. If you know what I mean?
Yeah. If can staff, staff's gone now.
That's an assumption I'm assuming.
Well, I think
Just to keep
Andre's
the ball rolling.
Andre's got a motion on the table. I think we need a seconder for that.
But as I say, we did this a couple of months ago. There wasn't an issue. It worked out fine.
Is there a seconder for this motion?
So, okay, so we've got the motion, Andre's motion on the table. Do we have a seconder for that? None? All right,
Motion lapse for one.
motion has lapsed.
Oh, sorry, I tried.
Keep that wording though. Keep that wording, please, because I wanted to go back with Andrea on something else.
If there's no seconder, then it's gone.
So.
But I can move it. I can move this.
Can I move that we accept the staff recommendation?
Yep,
Like
and
to
any
speak to that.
seconder?
Yeah.
Mark, so Helen moved and Mark seconded. And yes, debate.
Thank you. The reason
It's going the other way, rascals.
Yeah, I think this is quite a delicate situation. But the reason I'm proposing we move with the resolution is that we normally, if we have a difficulty with a street name, we take it back to the developer and he or she decides. What we've got here is that the developer came and gave us a very strong no. And so I can't see us putting it back to him, having another no and coming back. So I think we should just move with this. We could move an amendment to talk about the name that Andre and our speaker spoke of. We could move that be considered, strongly considered for further names in the Halswell area. I'm happy with that. It's just that we've had the developer here saying no, and I think we've actually got the answer.
All right, thank you, Helen. Mark?
Yep. I'm happy to second this.
Yes.
We've heard from both sides of the thought here tonight. We have heard respectfully from the developer as well as the name proposer, and we've had the clear direction of no. So I'm more than happy for us to confirm the names that he brought, because he's done a very good job of presenting to us what the reasoning was behind the names, and I don't want to cause any more grief in this. I'm quite happy if we do add an extra clause there to note that we recommend to staff the use of the alternate name in a future development in the vicinity, somewhere nearby.
Yes. And I'm happy to second that. Yes.
So could we add a?
Can we add something there, Faye?
There is a little bit of concern with adding a name.
Sorry?
There is a bit of concern with the board adding a name or suggesting a name, in that it could show a predetermination or a bias if that name comes to the board in future.
Well, there is a bias though, isn't there?
Only noting.
I know, that's my advice.
Yeah.
What's?
No, I think we're just saying, here's this name. We would like to have the name recognised in some future development. And Halswell, you pull
from this one.
The name is valid, so.
Yeah. So we would probably add something to the effect that that the future development
in the
area to use a road name that recognizes a local identity. Rather than a specific name. And
perhaps look to work with.
And
Joy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can try and watch that too.
Or I'm sure developers are made aware of names that have been suggested, because the development question here was never made aware of this very suggestion.
Probably not.
So something in the process isn't working if that name's never getting to developers in the first place.
So we might want to clarify that addition. Yep.
looking at it now. What do we say?
So request staff to consider or to propose to future
Yes, yeah. Investigate.
investigate the possible use of a road name that recognizes a local identity in that particular, in that.
In this
also-
vicinity.
In that Horsell vicinity.
In that vicinity.
Horsell vicinity.
Doesn't really relate to this report.
Yeah.
But,
Investigate the possible use. Have you got that up on?
I will put it up now.
Yeah. So face this put up, can you see the Tyler? Gamal?
No, I just see Andre's resolution as it stands.
Oh, sorry, I got the wrong one.
Oh, no, we don't see that.
Stop
Well,
sharing.
yeah.
I've got so much up on the screen.
Part C, number 4.
The staff recommendation with the addition of a number 4 requests that staff to investigate the possible use of road names that recognise local identities
within that vicinity.
Within the, within Horsell, I think.
Possible use of road names
In
in the Horsell area.
In the Halswell area.
That right?
Yeah. In the
Question on process.
Yeah.
Can we add a foreshadowed if the community board's added 0.4 already?
No. No, you can't, until there's an amendment on the table, you can't foreshadow an amendment.
Because I was going to bring it up in my debate. So should I wait to debate?
Make a suggestion
Be a
now.
resolution, aren't we? But so Tyler can
second
foreshadow a motion. He can foreshadow something.
He can't. Not until amendment's been made. This isn't, I guess, no, it's not an amendment. Tyler, you could bring it up now and see whether
It's
the mover and
foreshadowed.
second to want to pick it up.
I was going to bring it up in my debate anyway of a foreshadowed, which is the same as this office recommendation, except declining road 1 and approving lane 1 and lane 2, which is then automatically get staff to go back to.
No. He's happy to foreshadow it though.
You can only foreshadow an amendment when you have an amendment on the table.
Oh,
but-
is it? Okay.
But that's all right. We can.
Okay, if it's
still
last
get to it.
taken.
We can still get to it.
all right, so what now?
Well, we'll have a mover and a second. So we get a debate. Does anyone else want to speak?
We've had the mover already
And the seconder.
and the
I've
seconder.
moved and Mark
Right.
seconded.
Does anyone else want to speak?
All right, debate? Or did you have a question?
I think we've had the debate. I spoke to it anyway. Yeah.
All right.
No,
Put the
I
motion,
need
all right.
debate.
I'll put
I
the
need a debate.
motion.
Sorry,
Oh,
just you, Mark.
Tyler wants to say something. Okay, go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to not let debate happen yet, so we could have this informal, where we could find a proper resolution for this, because we've had 2 deputies come in with 2 differing views, of which we may have found some middle ground, but what we've done is we've gone from one side to the other. But I thought we could find some middle ground, and the reason why I wanted to do that is now I'm wanting to see if it's within order, if I can add a foreshadowed amendment to approve lane 1, lane 2, Koawa Lane and January Lane, and not approve Blue Dusk Close to go back to the developer with that one. Therefore, that would continue to keep the ball rolling for those, and then work with the developer on potentially bringing in another road name for Blue Dusk. Is that in order, Faye, or not?
You can move an amendment now, Tyler.
Yes.
So we've got a motion on the table. You can move an amendment to that motion now. You don't need to foreshadow it. Just move it now. And
No,
see
because
No, it's not quite right. It's not quite right.
no, because if I move the amendment, which they've moved and seconded,
No, we've moved.
it almost
You've moved a resolution.
Mark and I
Yeah, moved an amendment.
There hasn't been an amendment.
No, because Andre moved a resolution.
It didn't have a seconder.
Didn't have a, oh, I see, so it dropped.
Yeah,
So we've moved the actual resolution.
yeah.
And an amendment can be moved,
Yes.
can't it? Yes, okay. Yeah.
yes.
I don't support
Yes,
it.
so
No.
we might as well just do the amendment now. But
All right.
yeah.
So,
But you're
Tyler
welcome to
can
move it.
Tyler can make an amendment.
Tyler can move an amendment.
Move an
We'll need a
amendment.
seconder for the amendment.
Yes.
If there's a seconder, then we vote on the amendment.
Okay.
Yes.
If that passes, then that becomes a substantive motion. If it doesn't
Okay.
pass, we go back to the motion that's on the table.
Perfect. So what I'm saying is we approve Lane 1, Koawa Lane, Lane 2, January Lane, and not approve Blue Dusk Close to go back to the developer, to go back to the drawing board. What that does essentially is gets those two underway, and the other one goes back to the drawing board. Pretty simple.
Do I have a seconder for that?
Yeah.
Andre,
Okay,
so
so
move by
yes.
amendment by
Let me
Tyler.
just get it. So we're going to say, sorry, I'll just get the wording up so we're all quite clear what we're voting on. It's the wrong one. It's the wrong one.
You wanted Andre's
I didn't
one.
want Andre's one. No, I didn't want Andre's one. I wanted the. Sorry, we're getting worse now. We want this.
Yeah, you had that. That's what you had.
So what are you going to say for? So we've taken out, we've taken out Blue Dusk Lane. We're approving the other two, or this is what you're suggesting. What do you want to say for the rest of it? With regards to reconsideration?
For further consideration.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, Mark's
can't
spot on.
approve the following, we can actually approve the following for referral, because we've made a change. We have to send it back to the developer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can approve those two and request
For
the
those,
staff.
request the staff.
For a start.
Yeah.
On road 1,
Investigate what we said before.
The possible use of a road name.
Yeah. Added it in all the things.
Is that your amendment, Tyler?
Sorry, all I'm seeing right now is the recommendation that was standing.
Sorry, Tyler, I've got to stop that share and share the new one with you.
No worries.
You see it now?
Yeah, yeah. Is the seconder all good with that? Or would you like to add anything else?
So that's, you must say, Faye, that's the amendment.
Yep. That's the
Because we've
amendment.
got a resolution before that.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Should
the
we move the road one and next? What for though?
amendment is moved to Tyler. So we have.
Seconded by Andre.
Yeah. So we have a motion, moved Helen, seconded Mark for the staff recommendation. An amendment has been moved by Tyler, seconded by Andre, and this is it on the table. So we vote first on the amendment, then we go back to the.
I'm just sorry, we question here. Point 4, should we mention and work with the developer on road 1?
Yeah.
Name.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That's right. You'd have to have that word.
What did you say, Mark?
For road 1.
Work with the
For road 1.
road 1.
For road
Road
1.
1 that we're pointing to.
Just at the end of it.
Peter Tyler? Oh, sorry, I've got to investigate something.
Yeah.
Road name.
I think our mate's in the room anyway, so he knows.
Recognises a local identity.
That's all good, Tyler and Andre?
Yeah, just take out the TI and local identity.
So we'll vote on that now?
Yep.
Right. So we've had a resolution which was moved by Mark and seconded by Helen. If I can, hang on. Marilyn wants to say.
Give any advice about
Can we request that?
Should we request that?
Can we request? Can we?
Could we remove standing orders to allow that?
Can we allow her
It's
to?
moving the amendment, isn't
Yeah,
it? And then
hang
if
on.
the
Yeah,
amendment
no, Marilyn
doesn't
wants
win,
to
it goes back to the
Marilyn wants
resolution.
to advise.
Well, essentially, it needs to be
Provide
in
advice.
order.
Does the board,
It's up to you.
yeah,
Please write back.
so is the board willing to get Marilyn back on the table?
Yes.
Okay, Marilyn, please.
Do you have a plan of the subdivision in the
Yes.
notes? Right. Just want to bring to your attention that naming lanes 1 and 2 does not allow the developer to go ahead for a range of reasons, but primarily because they come off the main road, which is the blue dusk one. So in terms of the progression of a subdivision, you cannot develop without having legal access. Lynn simply won't accept that. So I kind of just want you to be aware that this kind of staged process doesn't actually allow the developer to do anything further than saying actually a full rejection of all 3 names.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's not an order.
They
Yeah?
sort of had to be done at the same time.
Yeah, subdivision is quite convoluted and there are particular steps in particular order. It's not easy necessarily to follow through unless you're doing it day by day.
Right.
So I just kind of, that's a fact, it's not an opinion,
Okay, thank
helps you.
Thank you, Marilyn. All right. So Tyler, with your
Marie, could
amendment,
there be a temporary road name as per the policy? Could there be a temporary road name like Road 1 until it was locked in, or does it have to be locked in?
it has to be locked in. It has to be locked in,
Okay.
right. So are you going ahead with your amendment?
Yeah, well, it's not an order. Essentially,
Not an order.
it's either approving or disapproving the road name. If we're doing this, it's essentially disapproving all of the road names. So essentially, I'm happy to pull it.
Pull it. Okay.
Yeah. Pragmatism at its finest.
Yes.
Love council.
Motion on the table.
Yeah, so the
Start with
motion is
Bill.
to approve the staff
We still
resolution.
have the motion on the
And you do
table.
have that extra bit about requesting staff to investigate
that's
the
right, yes.
use of a road name.
Okay.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
we did have it down anyway. So
Right.
staff look at.
Yes, it's there, Helen.
It's
It's
there,
there,
is it?
yeah, okay. So I will put that,
I haven't spoken.
okay,
Okay.
Andre,
Yeah, so just want to remind members, our job isn't just rubber stamp names, it's to make sure the most suitable name has been identified and found. Otherwise, we may as well give the delegation for road names to staff and take away from the board if we're not prepared to consider and make sure that's been done. We did this a couple of months ago and there wasn't an issue, it wasn't an issue. And if delaying the decision on road names is an issue, why did we do that a couple of months ago? Why did we do it in the first place? It was okay then, why is it not okay now? It is a reputation of this board to not necessarily be consistent on these things. This would be a classic example. So then in a couple of months' time, if any board members aren't happy with road names, we'll have to say, well, no, we can't do anything about it because we can't delay the process.
No, it's quite different.
That's precisely what we did a couple of months ago. We didn't approve the names.
I agree with that, but the difference.
And asked them staff to go away and look for developers.
But the difference.
I think I'm speaking, the developer's not objected to that specific name. The developer said the reason I'd like to keep these names is I like these names and I put the work into these names, fair enough. But an objection has not been made to the specific name of William Henry Gates. The only objection given was that it relates to someone who plays cricket, who was of course not the William Henry Gates talking about, went to war for New Zealand. So someone's asked for a name 5 or 6 years ago. I don't know where that's got to since. This name will be there for 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. It leaves a legacy, so it's our job to get it right. And as I say, if it is an issue of delaying the decision on a name, again, I can't understand why we did it a couple of months ago. It wasn't an issue then. I can't see it being an issue now. The job is to make sure suitable names are being considered. It hasn't been done in this case, and I think it should have.
all right, thank you, Andre. I will ask the mover of the motion if you'd like a right of reply.
Yes. Yes, I just want to say that it is different. What normally happens if we don't like a name for some reason, it goes back to the developer and he or she says yes or no. Now, in this case, we have the unusual situation. We've had a developer in the room as we make this call, and he's very clearly said no. So I don't want to take a longer process that will give us the same result. So we've had the no, and I'm sorry that, I mean, it's obviously deeply concerning to a number in Horswell, but we can try and make amends next time with the name.
Okay.
So, but on this occasion, we've taken that step. We've talked to the developer, and he said no. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's it for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. I will now put this to motion. Everybody, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
No.
Put that on record. Yes, so we've got Andre and Tyler.
And you both want your votes against recorded? Thank you.
Yeah, go on then.
Okay, I declare the motion carried.
Cheers to both of those that came in. That was awesome.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thanks for persisting, caring.
It's nice meeting you, Andre, too. Very interesting.
All right, okay, thank you. Now we move on, we're a bit late already. Moving on to Lillian Street. Do we have staff? Right, come forward, please. Proposed staff control of Lillian Street. Right, that Andrew?
Yes, I'm quite familiar with this location as well, being in the area. Has got busier. Lillian Street, very similar to Oak Ridge Street from a few months back, provides effectively a funnel between the subdivision and the other roads that lead out. In this case, we had a request for the give way to be changed to a stop due to the speed of left-turning vehicles. We checked the visibility and it meets the warrant for limited visibility for a stop, and it would then be consistent also with the other end of Lillian Street, which currently has a stop at Horswell Road. So the recommendation from staff is that in this case, in particular, given the width of the road and the ability for vehicles to turn at speed, in a arguably unsafe manner, that a stock control would be preferable.
Right.
Evident.
Right, any questions? No? Right, any mover?
Yes.
Andre,
Yeah.
seconder, Hank, finally.
Well done,
Right.
Hank.
Gotcha. Any debate?
No.
Nope. I'll put it to motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Carried.
All
Move on
right,
to the
happy to
next.
move double. Happy to move double. Let's go.
All
I'll
right.
second, Darrell.
Oh. Dargle Street, proposed no stopping restrictions, moved by Tyler, seconded by Helen.
Mhm.
All good? Yep. I'll put it to motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Mm.
Carried.
Did somebody vote against?
No, it's just a delay.
Delayed.
Yeah. And moving on to Wigram Road, proposed no stopping restrictions. Staff?
Happy to move.
Oh, happy to know.
Second by Gamal.
Second by Gamal.
Okay, moved by, no questions.
No questions.
Moved
No
by
questions.
Andre, seconded by Gamal. No debates? No, I'll debate. Okay, Mark.
I just want to raise and debate something I raised via email with the board, that this was, I gather, requested by the business, and they offered to pay to get this done. And I'd like to see us as a council perhaps work going forward to find a way where, if they're offering to pay for something to be done for them, that we can actually go through and accept that, because now this has cost our council, over $1,500 to put this in. And if it's going to be to the business's advantage to have it done, because it's going to save on temperature management board, and it's costing us over $1,500 to do it, yeah, I think we need to find a way as a council to find a way to work with the business to have them pay for it. So just, I'd like to, just mention that, and we'll try and find a way inside council to see if we can't get the ability to invoice for it. So.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else want to say anything?
Well, yeah, or at the very least, if someone wanted to donate money to council, there's nothing stopping them to do that. So maybe there is a loophole that can be found here.
Let's see if we can find something.
Yeah, but they did offer. Well, yeah. So, but also we have, like, decisions have to be made in the context of all planning and transport issues and everything else, and we can't just have it. We can't have planning and transport decisions sold to the highest bidder or anything like that either. So, but yeah, if someone's offering to give council money, surely there's a way to extract it. Council's pretty good at taking money from people, generally speaking, with the exception of this time. But yeah, it's worth looking into.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything? No. I'll put it to motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Right. Thank you. We move on to the discretionary response fund. That's Sam.
Happy to vote.
I'll move as a group. Are you moving as a group? I'll second as a group.
No questions. Moved by Mark.
Nope.
Seconded by Helen. And no debate. No.
Sam.
All right. Put it to motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Against? Carried. Right. And now we move on to the board area report. Bailey.
Happy to move.
Second by Tyler, seconded by Sarah. Put it to motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Against? Carried.
Awesome.
Elected members information exchange. I'll just go around the table and probably 7:10, probably 2 items if you have.
Okay, thank you.
Just 2 priorities.
Obviously, we can't talk about it much here, but plan change 14 has ended up on the council table. It particularly affects Hornby and Riccarton in terms of high rise, and that's of concern. But for Halswell, it probably takes you to medium density. So there is an impact, but it's not quite as strong. I don't think I can talk any further about it. But there is concern from Hornby and Riccarton associations.
Right.
The other issue is that Marie and I gave 2 youth awards last Saturday night at the CDN Trust. There was a large group there and it worked really well. That's all for me.
Right. Hank?
No, really just to say that I'm going to be absent from the next 3 meetings. So.
Oh, that's your
I am, yeah. And my wife just forced me to go to Africa. Catch a fish. Forced. I will, forced, yeah. Forced. And on my back, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep, so that's,
All right.
that's all I say, really.
All right. 3 meetings, apologies.
3,
Accepted.
yeah.
All right, anyway. Sarah? No? No? Andre?
Launch of the new Halswell Community Patrol cars this Saturday at 3 o'clock at the hub. Very exciting Saturday. Definitely Saturday. Heavy thing if you know, definitely Saturday. Cool. Very exciting. The car's looking good, and we've had there's been some really good new sponsors come on board. Which is just phenomenal. It's good. Yeah. Yes.
No, just remember something, you carry on.
Oh, okay, you had another one. I might have something to say about that. Also, I'm bringing a petition to Parliament next week. I happen to be in Wellington, so I'm going to pop over to the older beehive while I'm at it, around a safe crossing outside Halswell School, which has been an issue for decades. Apparently, One News did a story on it in the 1990s. Not much has changed the infrastructure since then, but there's a lot more cars since
I know.
then. I'm trying to.
It's a new school too,
yeah.
after the earthquake.
Well, no, the school's been there.
Yeah, but it's become enlarged.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I'm bringing that there this week. I'm confident we're on track for maybe 1,500, maybe 2,000 signatures. Would be nice. Yeah.
That's your 2?
Thanks.
Who do you hope to influence? Will it go to
anyone who can get us some transport? Anyone. Well, it gets presented at Parliament, and then it gets referred to the Transport Committee. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mark, please.
I'm continuing to work with the organisers of the hopeful Christchurch Street Sprints. Hoping to get that off the ground, but we've had a few snags. Resource consent being required potentially. So we'll see where it gets to. Hopefully we can get that through in time. Other than that, I'd like to thank staff for all their efforts around the community service awards that we've been busily instilling out on recipients in the community. I think it's been going rather well. I think it's great to have the recipients able to have a crowd to celebrate with them, and it's working really well. So thank you for all you're doing, staff. It's really appreciated.
That's it. Thank you. Tyler?
Yo. Really quickly, just on the Kilmarnock end of things, there's been some substantial developments on Darville Street by various developers. The issue we're having at the moment has been the resident developer interface, particularly around fence lines and things like that. There's been some issues. So just wanting to note that council need to start working a bit more clearly and more fluid with the developer and the resident. The second one, the first one aligned to that is actually the Riccarton Bush Kilmarnock Resident Association. I got their AGM on Sunday, 9:30 till 10:30 at the Riccarton House. Tony Simons, I just want to give him a massive shout out for the amazing work he's done as the chairperson there. He's stepping down, so there's an opening there. The last one is I put in a notice of motion to council around the Northern Line, the Kilmarnock arterial route.
Oh, good.
Kiwi Rail continue to have a bit of an issue, but I've also added the Darville Street safety improvements for the girls, high girls to be able to cross safely. The reason why it's a noting amendment is because when we do a noting amendment and when we tell staff that we've got our eyes on it, they reprioritize. So it's really nice to get that over the line and for the public to know that it's still on budget and it's still all good, even though many thought that the budget wasn't there. So looking forward to seeing that come across our table around safety improvements around the Kilmarnock area, and want to thank transport staff for the amazing work they've done. Cheers.
Can I ask a question then, please? Is the notice of motion on the cycle link, is that going to council?
It's been.
It's been.
It's done. It's
It
done.
got through-
Yep.
Got through to.
Unanimous.
Oh, wow.
All right. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah.
Gamal, do you have anything to share?
Yes, Mary, I just wanted to put this request to the staff about the updates on safety crossing, pedestrian crossing in Dean's Avenue.
It's a long-standing project.
It has been
I
too
can answer,
long
I can
now
answer
and-
some of it if you need.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
there's currently traffic counting. There's currently a traffic counter there. They're investigating the feasibility of it at the moment. Some residents have been notified of it, and they're currently doing a feasibility report and business case.
See, with the
Is
memo
that
came
correct?
out to the board, I think, to that effect, that they had to do more traffic.
all right.
Yeah, I've seen it, Tyler, yes.
Gamal, I'll try and find it and resend it to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Gamal?
No, thank you. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you. Sarah?
Sheikh, there's quickly just one thing, Maria, on the Dean's Ave and related to Gamal, is there's going to be more enforcement on car parking during Jummah time, which is Friday prayer, between 12 and 2 p.m.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah.
Just letting yourself and the public know.
Right. Thank you, Diana. Sarah?
Yeah, I just wanted to add around the Community Service Awards, the awesome feedback that we've received from distributing them within people's communities, and it's been such a privilege to be able to do that in front of people that recognise their achievements. And yeah, thank you very much to staff for everything you guys have done to put that together, because it's been, I would say, really successful. Yeah.
Yes, and same with me. Just to reiterate Mark's and Sarah's sentiments. Thank you to staff. Noella in particular, she's done a very good job, hardworking, and I've been to all the community service awards and the youth service awards so far. There's still a few more to come next month, and look forward to being out in the community. It's so lovely to be out there and see all the people appreciate. Yep. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, just one last thing that comes to my mind is Hornby High School. We've had a request from the school to take another look at the crossing points outside their school. So I've approached Andrew and Andrew's working on it. So
Because people are taking them faster and faster. It's part of the problem.
Yeah. So we'll continue to work with Andrew and see if we can fine tune the solution.
I need to sharpen up a bit, I think.
All right. Okay, that's all. Thank you. We'll do the Karakia closing. Right. Once we have it up. Yeah. Getting there. There we go. Unahia, kia uru tapanui, kia watia, kia mama, kia hako, kia wairam, kia ala takata. Oia lava kia mamu, wakareivia a kia giran, kia tina, ule, taie. Thank you. And meeting closed.
We need to go, I think. Tuesday week. I think we'll be in touch with him.
In the last.
Sorry?
Yep, 3.
3. Yeah.
Not this Tuesday, but the next Tuesday.
That's right.
Right. Right.